the maximum level expert. She thrives in interstellar riches. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 351 Kitten 3. Wen Jiu reacted very quickly and bent down, barely dodging the long knife. Just when she wanted to summon vines to entangle and use fire attacks, she suddenly heard Jiu speak again. I seem to have lost my memory. Do you think I'm a fool? You have lost your memory and still know how to hit people, she sneered, and several vines attacked Jiu at the same time, and there were also several dazzling blue fireballs mixed in the thick dark green vines. Jiu waved the long knife and shot out 2 air currents, instantly cutting off all the vines. At the same time, his other hand burst into brown light, and a solid defensive earth wall was built again. Wen Jiu used deep sea blue flame as her life fire, and its lethality is comparable to the flame of the 4th level firepower. The blue fireballs ignited a raging fire the moment they touched the earth wall. Jiu subconsciously strengthened the defense of the earth wall, which barely withstood the damage caused by this wave of flames. The two fought back and forth for a long time, until Wen Jiu realized that it was not a good idea to continue fighting like this, so she first retracted the deep sea blue flame and then untangled the vines. Then she tried her best to speak in a calm tone. Aren't you tired of fighting like this? Do you want to sit down and eat some dried fish? Jiu really still had the habits of a cat, and he became much more obedient when he heard the 3 words dried fish. Wen Jiu saw that the method of luring with dried fish was still effective, so she quickly ran to the cabinet where pet snacks were stored and took out the can of dried fish. You want to eat dried fish, right? Then tell me, what is your name? She shook a dried fish. Jiu first showed a vigilant look, hesitated for a moment, and then slowly spoke, Jian. His voice was still a little hoarse, and his pronunciation was not very clear. Wen Jiu guessed that it might be because he hadn't turned back into a human for a long time, so he became so dazed now. But she did not relax her vigilance. After all, the cold expression before was still imprinted in her mind, so she would not easily believe the other party's amnesia. Jian. She shook the dried fish in her hand again. Come here and squat down. As soon as she finished speaking, the other party staggered over and squatted in front of her very obediently, like a big cat that was ignorant and well behaved. Wen Jiu fell into silence after seeing this scene. She always felt that something was wrong. Do you want to eat it? She handed the dried fish forward. She originally wanted to throw the dried fish into the food bowl as she did in the past, but she felt that the scene of a living person lying in front of the cat's food bowl and eating dried fish was too weird, so she took the dried fish in her hand and fed it. Jiu raised his head slightly and looked into her eyes, then stretched out his tongue and licked the dried fish. His action made Wen Jiu even more silent, and then he quickly bit off the dried fish in the other party's hand, then stepped aside, turned his back and chewed slowly. Jian, where did your clothes come from? Wen Jiu realized this problem after turning on the lights in the living room. How could the other party really transform like a beautiful girl and automatically put on clothes after becoming a human? I don't know. I got them when I woke up. Jian stood up after eating the dried fish. It was only after he stood up that Wen Jiu noticed that the other party was only wearing a tattered black vest and a pair of black denim cropped pants. These 2 clothes were obviously not fit, and the hem of the black vest was so tattered that it could not cover the waist and abdomen. Under the bright light, Jian's well-defined abdominal muscles were particularly conspicuous. Wen Jiu quickly looked away. She regretted turning on the light at this time. Why did the other party wear clothes that were not in line with male ethics at all? Then can you change into another set of clothes? Your current clothes are very indecent. It was not only indecent, but also made her unable to look directly. It seems not to work. Jian stood there at a loss. He seemed to realize the problem with his clothes and silently covered his exposed waist and abdomen with his hands. But this action made Wen Jiu feel even weirder. The other party was cold and murderous before, but now he looked like a poor little thing being bullied by her. then can you turn back into a cat? Otherwise, when my friend comes out and sees a stranger at home, she will be scared and scream wildly. She felt that Kyoshi might not only scream wildly, but also attack Chujayan. It seems not to work either. Chujayan shook his head slowly. His voice is much better now, not as hoarse as before, and his pronunciation is much clearer. This made Wen Jiu very difficult. She couldn't drive Chujayan out, and there was no place to hide such a big person. It was almost 2 o'clock in the morning. In 5 hours, she should get up and pack up, and then go out to Wen's restaurant on time at 8 o'clock. Don't pretend to be amnesiac and innocent. Wen Jiu stood in front of Chujayan. Tell me honestly how you turned into a cat, and how you turned into a human. As long as you tell the truth, I will let you live in my house. How about that? As soon as she finished speaking, she saw Chujayan lowering his eyes and pursing his lips with a completely aggrieved and innocent look. I'm telling the truth, I really don't remember. His voice was very low. I just remember that my name is Chujayan, and you like to call me Ziohei. And I was in a drowsy state the whole time, until I woke up and found that I had become a human. It was also at that time that I remembered that I was a person, not a kitten. Wen Jiu had been observing him carefully while he was talking, but there was no flaw in his expression, as if he was really a poor man who had lost his memory. Then why did you attack me? And you have lost your memory, but you still remember to use your supernatural power to attack and defend. This doesn't make sense, right? As soon as the voice fell, Chujayan suddenly approached and wanted to hug her in his arms. Fortunately, she reacted quickly and dodged, otherwise she would have been forced to stick close to him again. Just talk if you want to, don't give me that shit. People should keep a safe distance from each other. She was a little impatient. Chujayan, who didn't hug anyone, drooped her mouth and said in an extremely aggrieved tone, but you hugged me like this before. You pinched my ears and touched my tail, and you always forced yourself to touch my belly. Wen Jiu's mouth twitched when she heard this, and she immediately retorted, you were a cat at that time. Cats and humans are different. And don't change the subject. Answer my questions honestly first. That's because you attacked me first, so I subconsciously resisted. I wanted to talk to you nicely, but you kept hitting me with vines and throwing fireballs at me. And I don't know why I did all this. It seems like this is my instinctive reaction. Chapter 350 to Kyoshi was shocked one. Wen Jiu felt a little guilty after hearing Chujayan's words, but she didn't attack him intentionally. She just sensed the danger and wanted to take the initiative. After all, who can resist and struggle when being pressed by a stranger? Forget it. Stretch out your hands first. Wen Jiu summoned a green light, and her fingertips gently brushed Chujayan's hands. The green light flew to the other party's slender wrists and constructed a pair of handcuffs woven from vines. Chujayan's wrists were cold and slender, with purple veins slightly protruding, which was quite morbidly beautiful. Whether you really have amnesia or fake amnesia, come with me to the bedroom and squat in the corner. After saying that, she extended a vine from the middle of the handcuffs and then pulled the vine to lead the other party. She glanced around the living room, and after not finding anything abnormal or messy, she turned off the lights and led Chujayan back to the master bedroom. See that corner? You'll sleep there tonight. Wen Jiu let go of the vines and sat on the bed, then pointed to a corner not far away. After she finished speaking, Chujayan obediently walked to the corner and squatted down, like an obedient big cat. Wen Jiu wanted to lie down and sleep directly, but the other party always stared at her with shining eyes, making her feel uncomfortable all over. So she added a few more sentences. Turn around and face the wall. Don't look at me. And don't unlock the handcuffs without permission. If I wake up and find that the handcuffs are gone, or you are gone, I will chase you to the ends of the earth. After she said this, she wrapped herself in the quilt, but she soon heard the rustling sound of the other party moving. Didn't I tell you to squat in the corner? Why are you sleeping under my bed? Wen Jiu lifted the quilt and saw Chujayan curled up next to her bed, which made her even more angry. The other party sat up quickly, pointed at the ground and said aggrievedly, the corner is so cold and the floor is so hard, you can lie on the carpet here. The room was not cold because there was a heater, but there was no carpet in the corner and the marble floor was cold and hard, so it was normal for Chu Jian not to want to sleep there. So when Jiu got up from the bed, ran to the closet to find a thin blanket and threw it to the other party. Let me make it clear to you first, I will charge you for lending this blanket, and you will also have to pay for staying at my house temporarily. But you have lost your memory now, and you can't even take out a penny, so I will just treat it as a credit. When you regain your memory or have money, you have to pay me back this debt. Do you understand? Chu Jian nodded, indicating that he understood what she meant. Then he raised his handcuffed hands and whispered, "You handcuff me, and I can't cover myself with the quilt." Wen Jiu had to let him lie down obediently, and then casually threw the thin blanket over him. It was impossible to remove the handcuffs, and she was still thinking about whether to put on shackles. Go to sleep, see you tomorrow. She lay back in bed and closed her eyes. But she couldn't fall asleep, no matter how hard she turned, so she could only stare at the ceiling with her eyes open. Chu Jian, you haven't slept either? Do you remember your grandfather? He is hospitalized in the 3047 hospital. She finished her words, but didn't get any response. She turned over to the side of the bed and looked down in the faint moonlight. Chu Jian seemed to be asleep, curled up in a ball, wrapped in a thin blanket. The unconscious sleeping posture of a person after falling asleep will reveal everything. Wen Jiu could tell from his sleeping posture that he was in a state of extreme insecurity. This reminded her of the various words she saw carved with a knife on the desk in the other's room. What on earth did Chu Jian go through to change from a sunny and naughty boy to that appearance? And why did he turn into a cat? And how did he suddenly turn back into a human? Could it be that he was the same as herself, a test subject of the experiment? All kinds of questions emerged in Wen Jiu's mind, but apart from guessing that he was most likely a test subject, she could not analyze any other information for the time being. She carefully observed for a moment, and after confirming that he was fast asleep, she gently raised her hand and a green light popped out. In any case, she still didn't know Chu Jian, so she naturally couldn't really let go, so she still put a pair of shackles on him to prevent any accidents. She didn't notice that Chu Jian's eyes suddenly opened when she turned over. The cold and fierce eyes were exactly the same as when she was first overwhelmed by him. In just a moment, Chu Jian turned back to his ignorant and docile appearance. He adjusted his sleeping position and closed his eyes again, as if he didn't notice the extra pair of shackles. When Wen Jiu woke up in the morning, she was almost startled and cried out. The scene was so beautiful that she dared not look at it. Chu Jian was kneeling on the ground with his hands hanging in front of him. The vine shackles and handcuffs were well attached to him without being damaged. But this posture, coupled with his tattered clothes, made Wen Jiu feel uncomfortable all over. What are you doing kneeling there? Stand up. She hurried to the closet to look for clothes, but she remembered it after a while. Although most of her clothes were neutral, she and Chu Jian had a big difference in body shape, and her clothes could not be worn by him at all. Make do for now. Wen Jiu took out her largest coat. Then she tied the sleeves of the coat around Chu Jian's waist, which just covered his exposed waist and abdomen. At least it didn't look so indecent. Before she could figure out how to deal with Chu Jian, she heard Kaioshishi knocking on the door outside. Jiu, why haven't you gotten up yet? She glanced at the clock on the wall. She would usually be in the kitchen making breakfast at this time. I'll be out right away. She felt a terrible headache. Stay inside first, and don't make any noise. Wen Jiu hurried to wash up, then opened the door a little, and went out and quickly closed it. Well, I saw you didn't come out, so I took out the glutinous rice balls from the refrigerator. She walked into the kitchen and found Kaioshishi boiling water with a bag of round glutinous rice balls in her hand. Then remember to boil the water before putting the glutinous rice balls in. If you boil them in cold water, they will easily fall apart. Wen Jiu opened the refrigerator as if nothing had happened, took out a box of milk and poured it in. Kaioshishi saw her pour 3 cups of milk and couldn't help wondering, is Xiaohan awake? Because the milk they bought was the kind that pets can drink, so when Xiaohe was here before, they would pour some milk for it. When Jiu hadn't figured out what to say yet, She couldn't just say that Xiaohang woke up, but Xiaohang suddenly turned into Chujian. Chapter 353. Kyo Shishi was shocked too. Shishi, I want to tell you something very important. Don't blame me for hiding it from you before. Wen Jiu took a deep breath and decided to tell the story. After all, she and Kyo Shishi are very good friends now, and she doesn't want to hide anything from her. She didn't tell it before because she was afraid of scaring Kyo Shishi, and she didn't know whether she knew about Chujian. But the day before yesterday, Kyo Jiu roughly explained the college competition to them, and Kyo Shishi also knew about the existence of Chujian, who was at the center of the storm. Alas, actually I knew it a long time ago. Kyo Shishi suddenly said this, and Wen Jiu was a little stunned. Xiaohang is actually Xiaohe, right? What kind of mutant cat is it? It seems that the other party didn't know what happened in the living room last night, which made Wen Jiu feel relieved. So she quickly said, well, Xiaohang is indeed Xiaohe, but it is not a mutant cat. If I tell you that I found that Xiaohe is actually a person, would you think I'm still dreaming? This time, the person who was stunned became Kyo Shishi. She slightly widened her eyes and looked at Wen Jiu in disbelief. The pair of dark eyes that flickered were full of confusion, and even the cherry red lips turned into an O shape because of surprise. But she did not forget to turn off the fire on the stove and put the bag of glutinous rice balls aside. Are you telling the truth? She really couldn't imagine such an incredible thing. Wen Jiu answered very affirmatively, it's true. I just found out last night, and you should know this person. The more Kyo Shishi heard this, the more confused she became. It was surprising enough that this little cat turned into a person. If she said that she knew this person, then she really couldn't imagine it at all. Seeing that the other party was still at a loss, Wen Jiu added, do you want to go and see? He is in my room now. Then let's go. Kyo Shishi nodded hesitantly. So Wen Jiu pulled her to the master bedroom. As soon as the door opened, she saw a very unfamiliar boy squatting beside the bed. His wrists and ankles were bound by dark green vines. Chujian looked at the door with a blank look. His face still had the wounds of the past, coupled with his tattered clothes and the red marks left by the vines. He looked both pitiful and inexplicably seductive. His pupils were deep purple with a layer of mist, and there was a natural weirdness between his eyebrows. Hiss. Kyo Shishi couldn't help but take a breath of cold air, and she quickly closed the door. What's wrong with you? Wen Jiu didn't expect the other party to react so strongly. It seems that he still has to lock Chujian up in Wen's restaurant. However, she was speechless the next second because she saw Kyo Shishi's face was as red as a ripe apple. He is so handsome. Before I saw him, I felt that I could not accept the fact that a cat turned into a human. But after seeing him, I suddenly felt that I also wanted to pick up a cat. Kyo Shishi's words were mostly joking. She calmed down before continuing, be serious, have you asked him what his name is? And where is he from? Why did he change from a cat to a human? This is a long story. His name is Chujian, and he is the grandson of the grandfather who rented the storefront to me. Wen Jiu answered her seriously. Kyo Shishi silently recited the 3 words Chujian, as if she was recalling something. She soon showed a shocked expression and whispered, is he that student? Because Kyo Jiu had previously talked about the accident in the college competition, she took advantage of her free time to search on Star Network to find out more relevant information. Although Planet 3047 deleted a lot of relevant information, it was still possible to search for the wanted order issued at that time. She remembered that the wanted student was called Chujian. Yes, that's him. Wen Jiu nodded. I don't know how he turned into a cat, and how he turned back from a cat to a human. And he said he had lost his memory, and I tied him up, because it happened suddenly. Kyo Shishi had calmed down at this time. She blushed just now, because Chujian was really handsome, and because of his appearance, it was too hard to look at. She hesitated for a moment before slowly saying, why don't you uncuff him, and let him change his clothes? I also want him to change his clothes, but there is nothing suitable for him at home. Wen Jiu saw Kyo Shishi's shy look in hesitation, and suddenly realized that he understood something. She quickly waved her hands and explained, I don't have that bad taste. He was like this when he turned into a human. And the wound on his face was not caused by me. I was just afraid that he would do something bad while I was asleep, so I tied him up with vines. As soon as she finished speaking, she saw Kaioshishi patting her chest and breathing a sigh of relief. That's good. I was thinking wrong. The two looked at each other awkwardly, mainly because Chujayan's style was hard to make people think wrong. Ahem. How about I ask Zikingayu to bring 2 sets of clothes over? Wen Jiu took the initiative to break this awkward situation. She herself didn't spend much money on clothes, so of course she couldn't bear to buy them for Chujayan. But he can't wear Zikingayu's clothes. I feel that he must be 1.9 meters tall when he stands up. Kaioshishi recalled that, although the other party was squatting by the bed, it could be vaguely seen that he was quite tall. It's not a big problem. I'll ask Zikingayu to get his brother's clothes. Wen Jiu said, and called Zikingayu, and asked him to bring 2 sets of his brother's clothes over. Sister Jiu, are you really awake? Zikingayu was just about to go out to take a hovercraft. He has a driver who drives the hovercraft to pick him up every day. He was confused after hearing what the other party said. Why did he have to take 2 sets of his brother's clothes, and he had to deliver them to Donghu Garden? I woke up a long time ago. I'll take them. If I ask you to, I'll explain it to you when you come. Zikingayu stared blankly at the call end interface. Could it be that he didn't wake up? Why are you standing here like an idiot? Ziziu came over and pressed his head hard. Aren't you going to be a waiter at Wen Jiu restaurant? You'll be late if you don't go out now. Although their hovercraft is extremely fast and has excellent performance, the children of the Z family are not playboys. They drive at the speed specified on the road and will not do anything that violates traffic rules. Therefore, if Zikingayu didn't hurry up, he would be late. But he didn't act in a hurry. Instead, he looked at his brother with a blank look and said, Brother, Wen Jiu said she wants 2 sets of your clothes. Puff. Cough cough. Ziziu just picked up the teacup and took a sip and was instantly choked by the other party's words. He paused for a moment before shouting, Are you awake? Chapter 354. Kaioshishi was shocked. 3. When Jiu and Kaioshishi had been waiting at home, neither of them mentioned letting Chujayan out. They both sat on the sofa and remained silent. It was not until Zikingayu rushed here and rang the doorbell that the silence in the living room was broken. Sister Jiu. He took out the clothes that the other party wanted. These 2 sets of clothes were both loose sportswear that Ziziu had never worn, and he also brought a pair of brand new sneakers. What are you going to do with my brother's clothes? Zikingayu was really curious. He thought that when Jiu could draw talismans, so asking for clothes could not be, because his brother made him angry, so he had to draw talismans and curse him. Do you still remember Ziohei? Kaioshishi pulled Zikingayu back, who wanted to follow Wen Jiu to the bedroom, and then slowly prepared him mentally. The main reason was that Zikingayu was timid. She was afraid that the other party would be scared and scream as soon as he saw Chujayan in the bedroom. Don't squat. I found 2 sets of clothes for you. When Jiu flashed into the bedroom and closed the door before walking towards Chujayan, the other party was still squatting there in the same position as before, with messy dark red hair and shallow scars on his face from who knows when. Coupled with his tattered clothes, anyone who saw him would think that Wen Jiu abused him. Oh, but I can't change with this. Chujayan stood up neatly. He also wanted to change clothes. I'll untie them for you. Change your clothes quickly. When Jiu removed the handcuffs and shackles on him and threw the bag of clothes to him, Chujayan caught the bag steadily and then untied the sleeves tied around his waist. Although he was thin, his muscle lines were very smooth. Seeing this scene, when Jiu quickly turned her back, she felt that her eyes were not clean. And for some reason, looking at Chujayan's 8-pack abs with clear lines, she suddenly remembered a colder face. It was unknown how well the handsome boy had trained his muscles. He hadn't come to see her for a long time. There was a rustling sound of someone getting dressed, and after a while Chujayan said in a low voice, I'm dressed, do you want to see? When Jiu crossed her arms and turned around to glance at him, He had changed into a large red and blue sportswear, and his loose sports pants were rolled up to 7 points, just revealing the smooth muscle lines of his calves. Not bad. He looks like a person. She gave her brief evaluation. Chu Jiayan's height advantage was too obvious. He looked more handsome in a casual sportswear than Zizio, who was dressed up. Moreover, his facial features were outstanding without any flaws. Those small scars not only did not reduce his handsomeness, but added a kind of charming and dangerous charm. Wen Jiu had seen many handsome guys, but it was the first time she had seen the other party's temperament that was extremely youthful and dangerous. She thought that if she put Chu Jiayan at the door to attract customers, the line would definitely stretch from Wen Jiu restaurant to the entrance of Donghu scenic area. Go to the bathroom and comb your hair and wash your face. Chu Jiayan obediently walked into the bathroom, and soon he came out with his dark red wolf tail hair straightened. It must be said that Wen Jiu was stunned for a moment by the other party's normal style. After his messy hair was smoothed, it suddenly strengthened the breathtaking sense of danger, and there was also an aggressiveness that could attack at any time. I think you may need a mask. Wen Jiu said this with some hesitation. On the one hand, she wanted this person to stand at the door of the restaurant as a human sign to attract customers, and on the other hand, she had to consider that the wanted order was still posted on the Star Network, and she couldn't let Chu Jiayan's existence be discovered by others. So she could only sigh. You stay inside first, and wait for me to find a mask for you to wear. Wen Jiu wanted to walk to the door after he finished speaking, but Chu Jiayan caught up with him and grabbed the corner of his clothes. Aren't you going to handcuff me? Aren't you afraid that I will run away? She was stunned for a moment, secretly complaining in her heart that she was really not that kind of weird person. Then she deliberately said with a cold face, you can run if you want, but there are many people outside who want to catch you. If you leave me, I can't guarantee that you won't be caught by bad guys. What's more, you still have a chip injected when you were a cat, so it's easy for me to find you. But I'm a bad person. If you run away, I will tell the bad guys your location and let them catch you. After Wen Jiu finished speaking, he pulled back the back of his clothes, then quickly flashed out and closed the door. As soon as she walked out, she saw Zikingayu staring at this side with a pale face, and after seeing her walk out, he quickly retracted his gaze. What's wrong with you? She walked over and looked at Kaoshishi, who immediately mouthed a hint to her. It's just that there's one more person in my house. It's not a big deal. When Zikingayu heard this, she became emotional. Jiug. That's a wanted criminal. Have you forgotten what Kyoji said? Chu Jiayan has killed people. At this point, he quickly glanced at the master bedroom, and after not finding any movement, he continued, aren't you afraid that he will pretend to have amnesia, and then wait for you to fall asleep, and then snap you? His mood was very complicated. Although he sympathized with Chu Jiayan's experience, the fact that the other party had killed people could not be changed. How should I put it? In fact, I'm also very entangled. Wen Jiu paused for a moment and continued, and there is one thing I haven't told you. Then she told the two children who had no idea about her battle with Sun Mio at the end of the semester, and the fight with Zhao Zia in the 3047 hospital. Kyoshi and Zikingayu were more and more shocked as they listened. They didn't expect Wen Jiu to have gone through so much silently. Why didn't you tell me before? We should have come to the hospital to accompany you. Kyoshi's eyes turned red when she heard this. Zikingayu next to him was not much better. The tears of this little crybaby kept rolling down, and he couldn't even speak clearly. Sister Jiu, your fate is too unfortunate. I want to share half of my luck with you. Okay, stop crying first. When Jiu handed him a few tissues. Why do you cry so easily? Do you want to become the most tearful star in the interstellar world? Zikingayu took the tissue and wiped it randomly. Although he liked to pretend to be arrogant and ignore people, he was actually very soft and emotional in his heart. It's all over now. What I want now is to keep Chu Jiayan, because I have a lot of questions that need him to answer. When Jiu held his chin with one hand and pondered, she said this without any falsehood. The main reason was that she knew too little information related to the experimental subjects, and Zhu Wanming could only tell her limited information. Only Chu Jiayan who was suspected to be an experimental subject, could answer her questions. Moreover, Chu Jian was still on the wanted list. If she let him go rashly, it would probably bring her some unnecessary trouble. And she didn't know how to explain to old Chu, who was still lying in the hospital. Chapter 355 I Palad 1. Zikingayu and Kaioshishi looked at each other. They could understand Wen Jiu's idea, but they were both worried that Chu Jian's existence would cause trouble for her. Moreover, it was the first time they heard about the existence of the experimental subject. At the moment, they could not help Wen Jiu in any way. They could only temporarily agree to let Chu Jian stay, and promise that they would not tell anyone about his existence. Since you have decided, I support you. Kaioshishi sat upright. I will move the things into your room later, and let him live in the guest room. She felt that it was simply inappropriate for Chu Jian to sleep in Wen Jiu's room, and the other party looked like an adult. Therefore, her priority was to solve Chu Jian's accommodation problem. It was not feasible to kick this person out at the moment. After all, the other party was still on the wanted list, so she could only give up the guest room. Do you need 2 more sets of that clothes? My brother has a lot of clothes, and many of them he has never worn. Zikingayu thought about it, and seemed that she could not help much else. She could only bring some clothes to help Wen Jiu save money. He and his brother both have a lot of clothes. Although they don't buy them themselves, their mother often buys some for them. In addition, some clothing merchants who want them to advertise for free often send them clothes. Therefore, they have several cloakrooms at home. It can be said that they have too many clothes to wear. If Chu Jian couldn't wear his clothes, he could even pack a whole box of his own clothes to give to him. Oh, by the way, are we going to go in and see that person? When Zikingayu thought about Chu Jian's killing, she was still a little scared. Although they had killed many monster students in Danyi Forest for survival before, Chu Jian killed living and normal people, which is completely different from the nature of the two. Do you want to see him? Wen Jiu looked at his scared and curious look, and couldn't help but smile and raised his eyebrows a little bit. Zikingayu had not searched for relevant information on the Star Network, so he didn't know what Chu Jian looked like. He thought that those who could endure the brutal training and had the ability to kill people in public should be 8 feet tall and sturdy, with muscles and scars all over their bodies. However, after the bedroom door opened, he only saw a tall handsome guy in sportswear. The other party only glanced at him casually, and there was a strong sense of oppression from a superior position. So he made the same reaction as Kaioshishi, slamming the door and holding his face with both hands, with a light blush spreading to his ears. Fuck, he's so handsome. His looks can beat 5 of my brothers. Correction, if you look similar to your brother, then I think Chu Jian is 10 times more handsome than your brother. At this time, Ziziu, who was eating breakfast slowly, sneezed. He didn't know that he had become a unit of measurement. Zikingayu suddenly didn't feel uneasy. He felt that this man was so handsome that he wouldn't hit him. Kaioshishi's blushing and heartbeat were relieved a lot after seeing him for the second time. Because she doesn't like this kind of aggressive look, she prefers gentle and kind male stars when chasing after them. Can you stop acting like you're visiting a rare creature? Why close the door if you're just looking? Wen Jiu was a little speechless by the two of them. Although it was quite rare for Chu Jian to turn from a human into a cat, it was really impolite for them to open and close a door repeatedly. We're embarrassed to go in. Zikingayu smiled awkwardly. How about you go in first, Jiu, and then we'll follow you in. Kaioshishi also echoed, yes, Jiu, you go in front. As they said that, the two of them automatically stood behind Wen Jiu and put their hands on her shoulders, forming a formation of an eagle catching chickens. Chu Jian, can you stay at home by yourself? Sure. Wen Jiu pushed the door open and walked in. The moment she met Chu Jian's eyes, she remembered that she had gone out to find a mask just now. But there was nothing at home that could be used as a mask, only a mask and a hag could make do. Sister Jiu, aren't you afraid that he will tear down your house if you leave him alone at home? Zikingayu whispered in Wen Jiu's ear. This reminded her that Chu Jian still couldn't stay here alone. So she coughed a few times and said, forget it, you should go out with us. After that, She left Kyoshi and Zikingayu at the entrance, and then went to the closet to search. While she was searching, Zikingayu boldly glanced in the direction of Chujian. The other party happened to look in their direction, and instantly collided with his eyes. Although there was no emotion in Chujian's deep purple eyes, his face looked really aggressive, especially when he was expressionless. There was an indescribable ferocity. This strong sense of oppression made Zikingayu lower his head immediately, pretending to check whether his shoelaces were untied. He suddenly felt a little regretful for letting this person stay. He thought he had an extra waiter brother, but he turned out to be the one with the lowest status. Here, this is the only one you can wear. Wen Jiu finally found a baseball cap given by Starnet Supermarket. There was a huge blue star pattern on the bright red baseball cap, which matched Chujian's clothes quite well. This baseball cap was given by Starnet Supermarket during the New Year's event 2 days ago. Since she didn't like wearing hats very much, she basically never bought any. Chujian took the baseball cap and casually grabbed 2 handfuls of hair, before putting it firmly on his head. The broken hair under the brim of the hat was pressed down a little, blurring his extremely aggressive eyebrows. Then Wen Jiu found a black mask for him to wear. The outstanding face was covered tightly, with only a pair of deep purple eyes still exposed. Hey, I have that. Kyoshi suddenly thought of something, and she hurried back to the guest room, and ran back in a short while. She handed the thing in her hand to Wen Jiu. How about letting him wear an eye coloring sheet? I happen to have a pair of coffee colored ones here. The so-called eye coloring sheets are actually cosmetic contact lenses, which can change the color of the eyes after wearing them. So Wen Jiu handed the eye coloring sheet to Chujian. Go to the bathroom and put this on so that others won't recognize you by looking at your eyes. Chujian's dark purple eye color is not common. If he goes to a commercial area, he will probably be recognized by acquaintances. I won't wear this. Chujian took the box and shook it. He had never worn such a thing before. Chapter 356 Eye Palette 2. Wen Jiu also didn't know how to wear eye contact lenses. Kyoshi was the only one who knew how to wear them. However, she didn't dare to approach Chujian, so she could only tell him about her experience of wearing eye contact lenses. Just take it out, use the small clip to pick up the contact lens, put it on the small stick, then pry open your eyelids and put it on your eyeball. Chujian listened to her and operated it very unfamiliarly. It took him more than 10 minutes to complete the step of using the clip to pick up the eye contact lenses. Why haven't you finished yet? Wen Jiu was getting a little impatient waiting outside. Although today was the day when everyone went to visit relatives and there wouldn't be many customers coming to Wen Jiu restaurant for dinner, it was almost 10 o'clock now, and if he didn't go there now, he would have no time to prepare the ingredients. I can't wear it. Chujian walked out and shook his head. There were a lot of red bloodshot on the whites of his eyes, and it could be seen that he was trying hard to wear the eye contact lenses. Wen Jiu looked at him and fell into silence, then walked over and picked up the box on the washstand. Sit on that chair and don't move. She pressed Chujian on the chair. At first, she couldn't hold a thin color palette that was almost invisible, but after she tried a few times, it became easy. Don't move. She moved in front of Chujian. His deep purple eyes always had a fascinating evil charm. Seeing this, Wen Jiu just wanted to poke his eyeballs quickly to cover up these eyes that were too seductive. So she gently opened his eyelids with one hand, and with the other hand, she poked the stick steadily and accurately. It only took her about 10 seconds to successfully put the eye palette on Chujian. It looks much better this way. Chujian's original eye color is dark purple, and now after wearing this coffee colored color palette, it has blended into a dark brown and black color. This color successfully reduced his seductive evil charm, and also added a few refreshing youthful feelings. Let's go. Wen Jiu suddenly realized that she and Kyoshi hadn't had breakfast yet, so she took a box of egg tarts from the refrigerator. Last night, Zhu Wangming ate all the baked milk, but there were only 4 or 5 egg tarts left. It would be difficult to let Kyoji take away so few of them, so she put the remaining egg tarts in the refrigerator. You don't need to show your ID when taking the floating bus, but when entering the East Lake Scenic Area, Considering that Chu Jian might need to buy a ticket, Wen Jiu specially sent Kaioshishi to act cute with the security brother. He said that the big brother was a new waiter in their Wen Jiu restaurant, and he hadn't had time to register his information with the management department. Fortunately, the security brother was also an old man in the commercial district. He had heard Sister Chen's gossip a long time ago, saying that Wen Jiu restaurant was run by 3 children, and it was very hard. So he didn't ask too many questions, but only reminded them to remember to register with the management department early after entering. The security team has a lot of people and they have to change shifts every day. The next person who changes will not be as easy to talk to as him. The 4 of them successfully entered the East Lake Scenic Area and went straight to Wen Jiu restaurant. During this time, Wen Jiu had been observing Chu Jian. She still didn't believe that he really lost his memory. But Chu Jian seemed to be in the East Lake Scenic Area for the first time. He kept looking around while walking and asked questions from time to time. What are those people doing? What kind of bird is that? Where are we going? He was simply the incarnation of 100,000 whys, and he kept asking Wen Jiu. At first, Wen Jiu had the patience to answer him, but later he just told him to shut up, to avoid exposing his identity. We are here. This is my store. After Wen Jiu said this, he glanced at Chu Jian inconspicuously, but the other party did not show any abnormality. He even answered her, I remember this place. You often locked me up on the 2nd floor. Do you have human consciousness when you are a cat? Wen Jiu asked Zikingayu and Kaioshishi to go and open the door, and he stayed next to Chu Jian to continue observing. Intermittently, Chu Jian seemed to be recalling seriously, but I don't remember it clearly. I can only remember some fragments. After he finished speaking, he lowered his head and looked at Wen Jiu. His eyebrows relaxed with a sense of innocence. Then do you remember what I told you? You have to pay to live in my house now. Wen Jiu turned his eyes away and looked at the boxes piled high at the door. I remember, but I don't have money. Chu Jian said this and twirled his fingers rather embarrassedly. Seeing his look, Wen Jiu pointed at the boxes at the door and said, then you can work in my shop to pay off your debts. You can move these boxes to the backyard first. Chu Jian nodded very obediently and then strode towards the pile of boxes. He suddenly lifted a box, walked 2 steps into the store, and then stepped out and said, how do I get to the backyard? Wen Jiu followed him into Wen's restaurant. Go into the kitchen first, then turn into the small warehouse, and then there is a small door leading to the backyard. You know, Chu Jian has lived and grown up here since he was a child. Logically, he must know how to get to the backyard, but he asked such a question, which really puzzled Wen Jiu. Could it be that this person really lost his memory? But the possibility that Chu Jian was acting could not be ruled out. Wen Jiu thought about it while ordering the other party to work. No matter whether he really lost his memory or pretended to lose his memory, he had to work for her as free labor anyway. Remember to sweep the floor after you move the boxes and go check the flower baskets at the door. If there are any withered ones, throw them into the big trash can. After she assigned work to Chu Jian, she went to the kitchen to prepare the ingredients for the lunch business. She originally wanted to serve a new dish today, but now Zikingayu only bought the ingredients she was going to use, and there was not much time left for them to prepare the ingredients, so she had to put the idea of serving a new dish aside for now. Zikingayu, remember to process all the ingredients that need to be processed. Wen Jiu and Kaioshishi both moved small stools and sat in the backyard. They were washing crayfish quickly. Because these crayfish grow in an extremely good environment, there is almost no mud and sand on their shells, and they taste naturally delicious. But Wen Jiu still followed the usual process to give them all a bath. While rubbing, she thought about asking around when she was free to see what other creatures in Danhu Lake could be fished out for cooking. The water in Danhu Lake is rare to have few impurities, and the crayfish raised there are large and meaty, and even the shrimp roe is first class clean. However, the shrimp roe contains more fat and cholesterol, so Wen Jiu also added a line to the crayfish consumption instructions on the menu, asking those guests with 3 highs to try not to eat the shrimp roe. However, most people who have the financial means to stay in the medical cabin are in very good health and have no major illnesses. Chapter 357, Zikingayu's Gift 1. Wen Jiu restaurant used to have only one waiter, Zikingayu, so he was responsible for serving dishes and clearing tables. Although he was very quick and cleaned up neatly, there were so many customers who came to eat at Wen Jiu restaurant that he often felt that he was too busy to handle it. At noon today, he was ready to be busy until he fainted, but he saw that Wen Jiu arranged Chu Jian to be a waiter with him and let them serve dishes and clear tables in the hall together. Serving dishes is not difficult, but it is not simple either. Zikingayu looked at Chu Jian, who looked confused and unconsciously put on a haughty attitude. He originally thought that this person was so scary, but it turned out that the other party was just a big fool who didn't even know how to serve dishes. Look, there's an electronic panel over there. After the guests place their orders, the dishes they ordered and the table number they are at will be displayed on it. But don't think that you can just serve the dishes according to the table number. Many guests sit at the same table, and you have to tell who ordered the dishes among them, so don't serve the wrong dishes. If there are guests who order fried rice, remember to remind them, when you serve them, that there are free side dishes on the counter over there for them to take. The sour plum soup in the kettle is also free. If it's gone, remember to take the kettle to the kitchen to add more. Zikingayu shared all his experience as a waiter with Chu Jian. After sharing, he wanted to pat the other person on the shoulder to show encouragement. However, he looked at the height difference between himself and Chu Jian and immediately and silently retracted his half-extended hand. Get ready to open for business. Wen Jiu stood in the kitchen, tied an apron, put on a hat and a mask, and wore gloves to keep clean and hygienic. After completing these preparations, she shouted loudly to open the door to receive guests, and also turned on the Bicalive broadcast. 2 servings of spicy crayfish for table number 6, and 4 servings of hot and sour noodles for table number 8. She placed the dishes at the serving port, and saw Chu Jian first run over and take them away quickly, and then run back without stopping to continue serving the dishes. Not long after, the other party came in with a recycling box for dishes, put it next to the sink, and immediately walked out of the kitchen to continue serving the dishes. His speed was as fast as that of an old waiter who had worked for 50 years. Seeing this, Zikingayu couldn't help but speed up her own speed, wanting to compete with him in being a waiter. The garlic crayfish and golden egg fried rice for table number 1 are ready. Wen Jiu's voice had just fallen, and Zikingayu and Chu Jian shouted together, "I'll do it." They both put their hands on the tray, and when their eyes collided, there was a feeling of sparks flying. "Brother, you are not familiar with the business on your first day here, so I will serve this dish." Zikingayu secretly calculated that he had only served 16 dishes today, but the other party had served 20 dishes now. Chu Jian silently moved the tray towards him. "Brother, you are still young, let me do this kind of thing." The two of them moved the tray back and forth at the food outlet, which made Wen Jiu, who was frying fish-flavored pork shreds, bluntly say, "Are you too childish? Hurry up and serve the dishes." Zikingayu was stunned for a moment by this shout, and Chu Jian seized this momentary gap and snatched the tray, leaving Zikingayu standing there in a daze. "Go and serve the dishes for table number 7. Wen Jiu put a new tray at the food outlet in a bad mood and put the fish-flavored pork shreds that had just come out of the pot on it. Hearing this, Zikingayu hurriedly took the tray and left. Seeing him leave, Wen Jiu quickly made the dishes ordered by the next customer. "Pumpkin daguanan, can I gossip? Who is that tall and thin boy? Is he the new waiter?" Beauty speechless. "It should be the new waiter. It can't be the new husband of Sister Fake. A man like the wind. I support Sister Fake in finding a second spring. It's not easy for her to raise 2 children alone. But this doesn't seem to be a second spring. I remember Sister Fake said last time that she had lost 2 or 3 husbands." Wen Jiu just poured the new crayfish into the pot and looked up to see a dense barrage of off-topic comments. The audience first guessed that Chu Jian was the new waiter, and then I don't know which idiot started it, but he actually diverted the topic to supporting her to find a new husband. What new husband is she looking for? She doesn't even have an old husband. I have to clarify here, I don't have the idea of finding a husband at the moment. And can you please focus on my food? She was really speechless, and she didn't know who diverted the topic. I'm so hungry. Okay. I told you not to discuss Sister Farke's private life. It's all the fault of the idiot Fengnan. The green with grass on his head. Let me bring the topic back to food. Will Sister Farke hold a food tasting today? Bing Chun. The happy man is immediately unhappy. Ha ha ha. But I also want to ask if there will be a food tasting, and have you found a cooperative factory for the snowflake crisps? Wen Jiu took the opportunity to glance at the barrage on the light screen panel, and then replied, there will be a food tasting. Don't you want to try that sour plum soup? I will open 3 rounds of sour plum soup to satisfy you first. The cooperative factory for the snowflake crisps is still being negotiated, and if nothing goes wrong, it will be negotiated in the next 2 days. She has already added the person in charge of Wuiao food introduced by Rocky, but the other party will only have time to discuss the cooperation tonight, so she can only continue to make the snowflake crisps herself to pay off her debts in the next 2 days. What kind of food will be launched later? This depends on the cooperation factory. If the negotiation goes smoothly and the cooperation is good, I will definitely launch some other food. She originally had the idea of selling snacks and frozen foods. After all, she went through all the store network supermarkets and didn't find any snacks or frozen foods that she could really accept. Therefore, she felt that there was a big gap in these 2 markets. If she could find a reliable food processing factory, she would definitely occupy these 2 markets. Rocky wants to eat all over the stars. When I heard from fans that Sister Farke was going to have a tasting today, I immediately rushed here to wait for the tasting. Excuse me, is it the tasting of Procambarus clarkii? I really want to try this. Big brother monkey, that's too good to be true. Today we are going to have a tasting of sour plum soup. 20. Actually, I really hope that Sister Farke will have a tasting of Procambarus clarkii. Last time, I saw Sister Farke using Procambarus clarkii to cook, so I went back and bought 2 pounds to try. The taste of the dish almost made me give it away. I think we won't be able to have a tasting of Procambarus clarkii today. I'll think about it later. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 358, Zikingai's Gift 2. Because today is the 2nd day of the Spring Festival, according to convention, everyone has to visit relatives and friends. Therefore, there are fewer tourists visiting the East Lake Scenic area than usual, and many shops in the commercial district have chosen to close for a day. There are fewer customers today than yesterday at noon. Kyoshi took in the paper cups and kettles placed outside. She happened to see Chujayan pouring water into a cup with an empty kettle, so she handed over the kettle in her hand. Your kettle is empty, and you can't pour water. She handed the kettle over with a smile, and after the other party took it, she picked up the empty kettle and walked to the kitchen. All this was seen by Zikingayu, who had just come out of the bathroom, and he silently clenched the broom in his hand. Kyoshi glanced at him and teased, Zikingayu, what are you doing standing here? If you don't go to sweep the floor, you won't be able to get home in time. Because the Z family is going to hold a family dinner to celebrate the new year tonight, Zikingayu has to go back in the afternoon to prepare to attend. HMPH. You are such a meddlesome person. He snorted sullenly and walked away with the broom. Kyoshi felt puzzled, but she didn't have time to care about these things. She still had to help Wen Jiu clean up the kitchen. You are so grown up, don't you know that you can't pour water out of an empty kettle? Zikingayu was very unhappy that he didn't get any attention. He walked to Chujayan and said something to him coldly. He didn't care about what this person had done to scare him. He just knew that he was very unhappy at the moment. Especially when he saw Kyoshi smiling at this fool just now. He felt like he saw his favorite model being snatched away by someone. Well, I don't know. Chujayan smiled at him, his eyes curved into crescent shapes. This reaction made Zikingayu even more upset. He lowered his voice and continued, then you can learn more from me. I can teach you anything you don't know. You are not allowed to look for Shishi, understand? Chujayan nodded first, and then answered, but I didn't look for her. She came to me just now. I don't care. You just need to take care of yourself. Zikingayu looked at Chujayan with the most ferocious expression he could make, trying to intimidate and oppress the other party in this way. However, as soon as his eyes met Chujayan, he heard Wen Jiu's clear and loud voice. Zikingayu, are you jealous? Zikingayu's eyes widened when he heard this. Was he showing it very obvious? It seems not, and he deliberately lowered his voice just now. Could Wen Jiu even hear this? How should he answer? You know, he just discovered the little signs in his heart 2 days ago, and he doesn't know how to solve it yet. Could it be that Kaioshishi had already seen through it? Oh my god, is Zikingayu going to become everyone's laughing stock? In just this short minute, countless thoughts flashed through Zikingayu's mind. He thought of many possibilities, but each one made him feel particularly terrible. He felt that his life was bleak. Zikingayu, I'm asking you a question. When Jiu walked out of the kitchen, I'm asking you if you want to be jealous. I'm making a dipping sauce for the dumplings. She thought that she, Kaioshishi, and Chujayan had not eaten breakfast, and they had been busy since they came to Wen's restaurant, and they didn't even have time for lunch. So she planned to make 2 baskets of buns, eat them with white porridge and side dishes, and then go back in the evening to have something good to replenish her. Of course, buns should be eaten with a dipping sauce, but she remembered that Zikingayu didn't seem to like the sour taste of vinegar, so she shouted loudly to ask the other party whether she wanted to be jealous. I'm not jealous. Zikingayu lowered her head in embarrassment. It turned out that he was thinking too much. After getting the answer, Wen Jiu went into the kitchen to continue making the dipping sauce. She was already very hungry. As soon as she finished the dipping sauce, she smelled the milky aroma of egg tarts, so she quickly said, Shishi, the egg tarts have been heated up. I'm a little hungry, please bring me one. Kaioshishi then put down what she was doing and ran to bring out the heated egg tarts. The reheated egg tarts did not taste as crispy as those just out of the oven, but there was a soft and glutinous texture between the crispness, so the texture and taste were pretty good. Well, this is delicious. Zikingayu pretended that she had not been thinking about it just now and went into the kitchen to take an egg tart and put it in her mouth. The rich and sweet taste of milk mixed with the sour and sweet taste of raisins successfully eased his inner embarrassment. You who have already had breakfast should eat less. The 3 of us are still hungry. Kaioshishi stuffed an egg tart into Wen Jiu's mouth and walked out with the plate. There were only 2 egg tarts left on the plate. She handed one to Chujayan and then picked up the remaining egg tart to taste it. HMPH. Although Zikingayu was standing at the door of the kitchen, his eyes followed Kaioshishi all the time. After seeing this scene, he lowered his head and ate the egg tart in his hand sullenly. When Jiu glanced at him indifferently, why are you humming all day long? Are you a humming monster? Yes, I am. Zikingayu did not refute as usual, but stuck out his tongue and made a face. Seeing this, Wen Jiu wiped the flour in his hand and walked over to tap his head. With your personality, you should study hard and stop thinking about those things all day long. Although she has no emotional experience in modern times or here, this does not prevent her from becoming a new generation of emotional master. Zikingayu is a person who really can't hide his emotions. He shows different expressions according to his mood, and people can see what he is thinking at a glance. Fortunately, the person he has his heart set on is also a little fool. Unless someone plays a straight ball to her, she can't tell what others are thinking at all. From a certain point of view, it seems that these 2 little fools can be a pair. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm thinking, oh, right. I'm thinking that I have something I didn't give you. After Zikingayu put away the kitchen door curtain, her face turned red, and she held it in for a long time before she could utter this sentence. Hearing this, Wen Jiu looked at him in surprise. What are you going to give me? A Spring Festival red envelope? That's about right. Zikingayu took out 2 small boxes from her wisdom ring space. I saw that you and Kaioshishi's wisdom rings are both ordinary ones, so I used my red envelope money to buy 2 latest wisdom rings. This is the best wisdom ring currently available on planet 3047. Better than the one he used, because he asked Zizu to find someone to customize these two. The little author from 3 AM. The system swallowed her chapter later. Help. The little author goes to think of a way. LLL. Is devastated cack. Chapter 359. Zikingai's gift 3. Are you sure you want to give it to me? When Jiu looked at Zikingai with interest, she always felt that the other party had ulterior motives. Yes, my young master Z doesn't lack these star coins. Zikingai touched his nose and said, do you want it? If you don't want it, I'll refund it. Upon hearing this, Wen Jiu immediately wiped his hands and came to take the box. She tore off the outer seal and slowly opened the box. Inside was a silver gem-studded wisdom ring. The workmanship was many times more delicate than the one she picked up for free from the 3047 Academy, and the gem inlaid on it was grey blue, which was very similar to the color of her eyes. TSK, how many star coins did you spend on this? When Jiu stuffed the small box into his pocket, intending to replace it after cooking, Zikingai raised her head slightly and said in a nonchalant tone, it's only about 20,000 or 30,000 star coins, which is just a small amount of money for this young master. He was complacent for less than a minute when he heard Wen Jiu teasing, since you are so rich, I won't pay you a salary. I believe that young master Z will not look down on my star coins. That won't work. Zikingai puffed up his face like a bloated pufferfish. You can't let me work for nothing. As soon as he finished speaking, Kaioshishi and Chujian walked into the kitchen. Seeing this, he groaned and turned his head, then stood against the wall with his arms folded. What did I just hear you say about working for nothing? Kaioshishi put the dishes into the dishwasher. Is Jiu going to pay you in advance? However, Zikingai ignored her and pouted her lips to look unhappy. Just ignore me, Jiu. You see he doesn't want to be paid. Just don't pay him. Kaioshishi just thought he was inexplicable. When Jiu was still making buns, when he casually replied, okay, then I will give you his salary and let you get double the salary. This made Zikingai even more upset. He just gave Wen Jiu a gift, so why did he side with Kaioshishi? So he said sarcastically, why should she get my salary? Should I let her take it back to buy clothes for Chujian? Chujian, who was suddenly named, was a little confused. He was the only one who worked for nothing here without a salary. Why was he involved in the quarrel between the two children? Hey, what's wrong with me buying clothes for him? I also buy clothes for Jiu. Anyway, I won't buy clothes for you. Kaioshishi put her hands on her hips and looked at Zikingai. The bickering sparks of the two children had been ignited, and they quarreled for a long time. It was not until when Jiu could no longer bear it that they stopped bickering and turned their heads away with a muffled hum. Both of you go out and calm down. Chujian, come here and help me stir the porridge. She drove the two childish kids out of the kitchen, then pulled Chujian to the stove, motioning him to help her. However, she really overestimated Chujian's cooking ability. Although he was very competent as a waiter, he either made trouble for her or messed up things in the kitchen. I'm sorry, I think I broke the bowl. Chujian squatted on the ground and tried to put the broken pieces back together. When Jiu held his forehead and said speechlessly, forget it, I think this bowl can't be saved. Why don't you squat in the corner and wait for the meal? I can help. Chujian knew that he had done something wrong, so he thought about doing something else to make up for it. However, when Jiu pulled him to the corner, you squat here and don't move. As soon as she finished speaking, she saw the other party squatting down with a wronged look on his face and put his hands together and said to her, then are you going to handcuff me? You are not a prisoner. As long as you don't do bad things, you don't need to be handcuffed. When Jiu turned around and walked back to the stove, at the moment she turned around, Chujian's eyebrows hidden under the fine bangs slightly raised. However, when Jiu, who only wanted to fill his stomach quickly, did not notice the sudden change in the other party's expression. Here, a spring festival gift for you. Zikingai took the initiative to show goodwill and put the box on the table, but Kaioshishi opposite him was still lying on the table without saying a word. So he also lay on the table, then poked the other party with his hand and whispered, "I was wrong. This is the latest model of wisdom ring that I bought with the red envelope money, and it has a very large storage space for things." After he finished speaking this time, Kaioshishi muttered softly, "The wisdom ring that can store items is too expensive. I don't want it. And I don't have a New Year's red envelope, so I can't return the gift to you. My young master Z has everything. Why do I need you to return the gift to me?" Zikingai moved the box forward again. However, the next second, the other party pushed the box back to him. "You should take it back. This is really too expensive." Zikingai pursed his lips and thought for a moment, then added, "I also gave this wisdom ring to Sister Jiu. She accepted it and you didn't. Wouldn't it make me look weird?" After the voice fell, Kaioshishi finally raised her head and took the box. She slowly tore open the seal and saw that the box contained a shiny wisdom ring and rose gold and coral pink gemstones. Although the coral pink gem is not big, it is bright in color and pure in quality. It is very eye-catching just by looking at it. Wow. Is this gem a specialty of Milestar? Kaioshishi was very surprised holding the box. She has liked this gem for a long time, but the gems produced in Milestar are quite expensive. Just the small one inlaid on this wisdom ring costs 50 or 60,000 star coins. And she can see that the metal used as the ring is also very expensive, but she can't tell what kind of metal is used. "Do you like it?" Zikingai held his face with both hands, but he didn't dare to look at Kaioshishi because he was sitting so close. He could only lower his eyes and look down. Kaioshishi looked at the wisdom ring in the box again and again, and then hesitantly said, "I like it, but it will cost a lot of star coins." "Oh, I've said it before, this little money is nothing to me." Zikingai acted particularly heroic, and Jiu's one is similar to yours, just accept it with peace of mind. This was the first time he lied, when Jiu's one was much cheaper than Kaioshishi's. He begged Zizu for a long time before the other party agreed to buy it for him. And the metal ring was made of several precious metals. In short, the total price of Kaioshishi's ring was 4 or 5 times higher than Wen Jiu's wisdom ring. "It's time to eat. You to come in and serve the food." Wen Jiu stood behind the door curtain and listened for a long time while the buns were steaming. I didn't expect her to be at all, and I didn't expect Zikingai to be quite good at it. She thought the other party was going to use that kind of awkward way that would easily cause misunderstandings. She couldn't help but sigh in her heart. Spring has really come. Chapter 360 Cotton Doll 1. Chujian didn't actually eat the egg tart that Kaioshishi handed over because he thought it looked weird, and in addition to the fragmentary memories left when he was a cat, he remembered that he seemed to only eat the food that Wen Jiu fed him. So he returned the egg tart to Kaioshishi at that time and said that he was not hungry and didn't want to eat. So when Wen Jiu put the steamed buns and porridge on the table, he immediately held the bowl and drank the porridge in big gulps. After drinking it, he tilted his head and looked at him like a cat asking for food. "You are a human now, take whatever you want to eat." Wen Jiu was a little speechless when she was stared at, but she was not a good-tempered person. So how could she go to pick up food to coax Chujian? What's more, Chujian and Zhaohei are completely different. Cats need their owners to feed and pour water, but humans don't. "I don't think I can do this." Chujian picked up the chopsticks and struggled for a long time, but he couldn't pick up the shredded potatoes from the plate into the bowl. Seeing this, Wen Jiu first went into the kitchen to find a fork and a spoon and handed them to him, then sat down and asked suspiciously, "You even remember how to use superpowers? Why don't you remember how to use chopsticks?" "I don't know either." Chujian tried hard to put the shredded potatoes into the bowl with a fork. "Are the superpowers you are talking about referring to the ones that suddenly appeared last night?" After he finished speaking, the 3 people at the table all looked at him in unison. This made him speak again. "It's those flying vines and flames. Oh yes. And the long knife that appeared inexplicably in my hand, and then it disappeared inexplicably." Chujian's words made Zikingai and Kaioshishi look puzzled. The two of them looked at each other tacitly, and then buried their heads at the same time to continue eating. Both of them knew that now was not a good time for them to speak, so they just buried their heads in eating, and ignored Chujian. Soon they knew that their idea was right, because when Jiu put down his chopsticks and said coldly, "You really don't know how to use supernatural powers?" "I really don't know. I feel like those things are ingrained in my bones." Jiu put down the fork and bowl, then turned around obediently and folded his hands on his legs, like a child who felt that he had done something wrong. However, the three people present were much younger than him, which made the scene look very weird. "Forget it, let's eat first." When Jiu picked up a fresh meat bun and dipped it in the dipping saucer, the bright red chili oil stained the beige bun skin, and the gravy splashed in his mouth when he took a bite. The meat filling was fresh and fragrant with a spicy chili oil, and paired with the crispy and delicious lotus root cubes, all kinds of delicious flavors can be experienced with just one bite. The three people were chewing slowly and enjoying the food. Only Jiu was struggling with the food with his fork. It was easy for him to fork the meat buns with a fork, but he couldn't fork the hair-thin potato shreds. He could only put the bowl next to the plate and use the fork to move the potato shreds into the bowl little by little. It also took him a long time to fork the side dishes in the small plates into the bowl. Although Zikingayu and Kaioshishi wanted to pick up some food for him, they buried their heads deeper when they saw Wen Jiu's cold face. "Jiu, try another spoon." Wen Jiu couldn't stand it anymore, and Jiu looked so miserable that it seemed as if he was being bullied by her. "Oh, I forgot the spoon." Jiu scratched his head embarrassedly. "I found that my memory seems to be not very good. Not only did I forget many things before, but I can't even remember these things now." His smile was very sincere and a little sad, so that Zikingayu couldn't help but comfort him. "It's okay. It's normal for you to have sequelae after just turning back from a cat. Maybe you can get your memory back after a while." "Yes, Brother Chu, you will definitely get your memory back." Kaioshishi casually echoed a few words. Half of her words were sympathetic to Jiu's experience, and the other half was hoping that he could get his memory back as soon as possible to help Wen Jiu answer questions. The meal was full of sadness, and the four people had different thoughts, so everyone seemed absent-minded. "Little shopkeeper?" Suddenly there was a muffled sound of knocking on the glass door, which attracted the four people to look at the door in unison. Because the afternoon was their rest time, Wen Jiu would lock the glass door and hang up a wooden sign to suspend business after the noon business hours every day. A tall and mighty man was standing outside the glass door. He grinned with his beard, and Zikingayu couldn't help but move closer to Kaioshishi. "The young owner of Wen Jiu restaurant is really you." Zhang Zuangshi waved his hand excitedly and greeted. "I saw that you didn't come to the doll shop to see me these 2 days. I happened to hear Sister Chen talking about you this morning. I heard her say that the person who came to my shop that day was small with platinum hair, so I guessed whether it was you, but I didn't expect it to be you." Zhang Zuangshi had promised to send a cotton doll to Wen Jiu before, but he didn't see the other party coming after he made it. It happened that when he passed by in the morning, he heard Sister Chen chatting with others and talked about the new owner of Wen Jiu restaurant being a child. When he heard the description of his appearance, he remembered the child who came to the store that day and gave him inspiration. So he thought about finding some free time to go to Wen Jiu restaurant to take a look, but he didn't expect that the child was actually the young owner of Wen Jiu restaurant. This was really a coincidence. Although he would come to Wen Jiu restaurant for lunch at noon, and in the evening, he would definitely not see or recognize Wen Jiu during mealtime, so he did not realize until now that the child and the shop owner were the same person. Zhang Zuangshi originally thought of giving the child a doll for free, but now that he found out that the child and the shop owner were the same person, he decided to send some more doll clothes over and try to build a good relationship with the other party so that he could eat for free. "Is the doll ready?" Wen Jiu unlocked the door and walked out. She originally wanted Zhang Zuangshi to go in and sit down to chat, but the other party had to rush back to the doll shop to do business, so she said that he could just stand at the door and chat for a while. Zhang Zuangshi handed the pocket to Wen Jiu and said, "Yes, I made a pair of cotton dolls this time, and they all have interchangeable hairstyles." After handing the pocket to Wen Jiu, he added a few more words. "They are wearing baby clothes, and I put 2 sets of college clothes in the bag. If you want other styles of clothes, you can come to the doll shop to find me anytime. Zhang Zuangshi left Wen Jiu restaurant. After he finished speaking, he just glanced outside and saw Wen Jiu and 3 others eating. Although he really wanted to stay and have a meal, the store still had a batch of urgent orders that needed him to fulfill, so he could only leave with the sadness of having no food to eat. Chapter 361 Cotton Doll 2. Wow, these 2 cotton dolls are so cute. Kyoshi stared at the cotton dolls that Wen Jiu had arranged with shining eyes. Both dolls looked very cute, and the expressions on their faces were extremely vivid. This embroidery is so delicate. After getting Wen Jiu's approval, she fiddled with the cotton dolls in front of her. The 2 cotton dolls looked different. First of all, one of them had black hair color, while the other had the same platinum color as Wen Jiu. Jiu, I feel like this doll is made in your image. Kyoshi picked up the platinum haired doll and looked at it. The doll's eye color was also similar to Wen Jiu's, and the pupils were embroidered with grey-blue silk thread. And on the slightly bulging belly of the cotton doll, there was a rose pattern embroidered with light pink silk thread. You know what? I also think this doll looks like Jiu. Zikingai came over and looked at it carefully. Look at the canine teeth under the mouth. They are made very similar to Jiu's canine teeth, but if the ears were a little more pointed, it would be even more similar. When Jiu was teaching Chu Jian how to clean the hall, and when he heard what they said, he walked over curiously. When Zhang Zuangshi handed the pocket to her, she didn't carefully check what the doll in the pocket looked like, but just put the doll on the counter and went to continue eating. It looks quite similar. She first took the doll that looked very similar to herself and looked at it, then pointed to another doll and said, "What about this doll? Who do you think it looks like?" Zikingai and Kyoshi came to the other doll together, but they looked at it for a long time and couldn't think of anything. It may be the owner's own original model. I know that this kind of doll seller will not only make real-life comparison versions, but also make original models designed by themselves. Kyoshi usually likes to collect these cute things. Although her dream is to become an iron-blooded female warrior, this does not prevent her from liking pink and collecting cute things. Then this original model is quite handsome, and it feels like a little cool guy. Zikingai glanced at the unter-shade doll. This doll has black hair and a pair of azure blue eyes. The embroidery on the lips is not like the other doll with an open mouth and a smile, but only a red line is embroidered, as if someone is pursing his lips, which has a sense of a cool guy. When Jiu stared at the doll in a trance, she always felt that the doll looked very much like a handsome boy, but she remembered that the handsome boy's eyes were black, not this deep blue like the deep sea. But the owner of the doll shop should not have seen the handsome boy. Is it just a coincidence? She was thinking seriously and saw Chu Jian coming over with a mop and said, "I have cleaned the kitchen and the hall. Is there anything else I can do?" "There is nothing to do. Come with us to the 2nd floor to rest." When Jiu put the 2 dolls back into her pocket, she planned to take Kyoshi and Chu Jian to the 2nd floor for a lunch break. After all, they had to stay in Wen Jiu restaurant to open in the evening. As for Zikingai, because she had to rush home to prepare for the family dinner, she had to finish work and leave Wen Jiu restaurant early. After he left, Wen Jiu arranged for Chu Jian to rest on the sofa. She and Kyoshi still went to the master bedroom for a lunch break together, but before the lunch break, she wanted to study the new wisdom ring, so she took out the small box given by Zikingai. Kyoshi happened to have the same plan, so the 2 began to replace the wisdom ring. Replacing the wisdom ring is very simple and quick, but for Wen Jiu, who has not used the high-tech products here, there is still a little difficulty. Put this wisdom ring on your hand and inject a little spiritual power, then open the light screen panel of the previous wisdom ring. Kyoshi patiently taught her how to operate it. After a few minutes, she finally successfully transferred all the data to the new wisdom ring. Hey, why is this panel different from what I saw before? When Jiu had just finished transferring the data when the new wisdom ring popped up the light screen panel for her to bind her identity. She used to use the wisdom ring that the 3047 Academy gave to students for free. The performance system and setting program of that wisdom ring were quite backward, and it could only be used as a makeshift. The wisdom ring that Zikingayu gave her as a spring festival gift is the latest model currently available on the market of Planet 3047, so the light screen panels displayed by the two are completely different. The light screen panel of the wisdom ring issued by the Academy is like the interface displayed by an old computer, without fancy decorations and desktops, only simple software display. Even the Star Network friend list could not display avatars. Everyone had a white grid with a Star Network nickname, which led to Wen Jiu's misunderstanding. She always thought that the Star Network friend list was like this. Not only could she not set avatars and personal signatures, but she could not even group friends and change notes. For this reason, she had complained several times in her heart why the friend system in the Interstellar era was not as good as a certain penguin in modern times. Until now, after changing to the latest smart ring, she realized that she was too backward. The light screen panel displayed by this smart ring is very smooth to use, and even the clarity of the display interface is much higher than the previous one. And she can finally see the normal Star Network friend list, not only with everyone's avatar and personal signature display, but also change friend notes and groups. She first took a quick look at other people's avatars, and then found that Yu Ruman's avatar was a red water lily, and Zhu Wanming's was a blue herb. Even Kaioshishi and Zikingayu had their own avatars. They used a cute rabbit doll and a mini simulation mecha model respectively. This made Wen Jiu curious about her own avatar. She remembered that, when she set up her StarNet account, the system didn't seem to let her set an avatar or a personal signature. So she clicked on the personal information settings and took a look. Suddenly, she felt her eyes go dark. Is this the avatar you saw when you and Zikingayu chatted with me? Wen Jiu enlarged the avatar and looked at it. The burly man with a full beard and a scar on his face forced a smile and raised his hands above his head, making a big and standard heart. Because the system of the Ziji she was using at the time was too backward, it used the StarNet image to automatically generate the avatar by default. Yes, I thought you liked this style. Kaioshishi touched her nose a little embarrassedly. She saw that Wen Jiu used this virtual image in the StarNet world and set the StarNet avatar to this style, so she always thought that the other party liked Sun Badao's style. Although she personally couldn't understand it, she knew that she should respect other people's preferences out of courtesy, so she never mentioned the avatar. Chapter 362 A hot man who hasn't appeared for a long time 1. However, Wen Jiu only fell into a state of autism for a few seconds before she successfully recovered. As long as she didn't show her embarrassment, no one would know that she was embarrassed. So she calmed down and said, I think this image is good. At least when I set up a stall in the Star Network world, many people don't dare to come to cause trouble when they see my appearance, which reduces a lot of unnecessary trouble for me. Then she studied the use of the new light curtain panel for a while. She also tried to store items in the real world in the wisdom ring space, but as she studied, she found that she seemed to have forgotten something. She forgot to reply to the handsome boy's message. Just now, when she roughly checked the avatars of the people in the friend list, Wen Jiu glanced and saw the red dot of Mr. Lu's message, but at that time she was busy studying how to use the new light curtain panel, so she thought about replying to the other party later. As a result, she had a lot of fun and forgot about replying to the message. Yan, Happy Chinese New Year. Yan, transfer 66,666 star coins to you. Yan, transfer 88,888 star coins to you. Wen Jiu was stunned for a moment when she saw these messages, especially the message of Happy Chinese New Year, which was sent at midnight on the night of the Chinese New Year. But she was celebrating the Chinese New Year with others at that time and had no time to reply to the messages of her friends on the Star Network. Later, she had to deal with Chu Jian who had turned back into a human, so she only saw the message sent by Mr. Lu now. Family Wealth 9. Happy Chinese New Year, Mr. Lu. Sorry to reply to you now. It shouldn't be too late, right? Sorry, Mr. Smith, I have something to deal with. Lu Yan stood up and bowed his head slightly apologetically, but the arrogant and indifferent look on his face did not diminish at all. After he finished speaking, he strode out of the meeting room, completely ignoring the feelings of those behind him. However, no one dared to say anything to him, so Will Smith, who was in charge of presiding over the meeting, could only smile awkwardly and then continue to talk about what he had not finished just now. Lu Yan walked all the way to the door of the lounge. After he verified his fingerprints and irises, the door of the lounge slowly opened. Even in the lounge, he couldn't really relax. After confirming that there were no reconnaissance instruments here, he sat on the sofa and opened the light curtain panel. Some time ago, because he had to carry out the mission of Saturn Star with the people of the military district, he could not use any communication equipment except those issued by the army. Even the wisdom ring was removed before departure and handed over to others for safekeeping. It was not until he returned to the Imperial capital Star the day before yesterday that he was able to get the wisdom ring back. But there are still many things to deal with after returning. Even on the second day of the spring festival, he had to attend a meeting and could not visit relatives and friends to receive red envelopes like other people. Last night's meeting lasted until midnight. At that time, everyone suspended the meeting for a while in order to respect the customs. Everyone opened the light curtain panel to send blessings to their family or friends. Only he looked at the light curtain panel and fell into contemplation without any action because he didn't know who to send this spring festival blessing to. He had never experienced this kind of festival custom since he was a child. Lu Yan didn't know what he was thinking at the time. Maybe it was to make himself look sociable, or maybe he wanted to seek a little unwarranted warmth. He silently opened Sun Badao's chat box and sent him a happy Chinese New Year. But he knew very well that there was only a monetary transaction between him and Sun Badao, so he added the transfer as a chat transaction. However, he did not receive a reply from the other party until the meeting was reopened. Yan, not counted. Although Lu Yan hoped that Sun Badao would reply to him at midnight, he knew that the other party was not a servant who could come at his call at any time. Fortunately, today is still the Spring Festival, so this happy Chinese New Year is not too late. He thought that after Sun Badao replied to this sentence, there would be no other words. But he did not expect that the other party suddenly sent several messages. After reading the content clearly, he could not help but be stunned for a moment. Jia K119, thank you for your red envelope. But I don't have much time to chat recently. Jia K119, Mr. Lu, are you free to come to the Star Network world now? I have a gift for you. When Jiu entered the Star Network world, after sending the message, she wanted to see what was different between the Star Network world of the new Ziji and the previous one. She injected her mental power into the new wisdom ring, and soon a white light flashed. When she opened her eyes again, she was standing in the Starlight Night Market. But what disappointed her was that the Star Network world did not change at all. She thought that there would be clearer images or more realistic virtual characters, but everything was the same as before. Mr. Sunday. When Jiu was thinking about where to go to wait for the handsome boy, and then she heard the familiar cold voice behind her. Happy New Year, Mr. Lu. She habitually stood on tiptoe and waved. This action can show her girlish cuteness in reality, but now she is doing this action with the appearance of Sun Badao, which is indescribably funny. Lu Yanban still had a cold face, but after he saw this picture, the corners of his beautiful lips could not help but rise slightly, and it can be seen that he was in a very happy mood at this time. Happy New Year, Mr. Sun, I wish you all the best. He walked to the other side and smiled slightly to show his friendliness, to show his courtesy. When Jiu smiled and said, then I wish you good health and a lot of money. The two exchanged pleasantries for a long time, and finally when Jiu couldn't stand it anymore and interrupted, let's get back to the point. This is a gift I want to give you. She successfully learned how to store real objects in the Ziji space, and how to take these objects out of the Star Network world, and give them to others. This kind of real object is easier to convert than the virtual objects in the Star Network world. After the person who gets the object returns to reality, he only needs to consume very little mental energy to take the object back to reality. When Jiu took out the amulet folded into a small triangle, do you know what this is? Your friend bought it from me before. Well, he gave me one. Lu Yan didn't reach out to take it. Although he approached Sun Badao for the amulet at first, he didn't know why he suddenly lost interest in pursuing the truth. Seeing this, when Jiu handed the amulet forward again, this was the only amulet she had drawn. when she was experimenting with spiritual power injection 2 days ago. Because the spiritual power injected into the amulet consumed much more than other amulets, she only drew this one for the experiment. She originally wanted to keep it for her own use. After all, this amulet consumed a lot of her spiritual power. Chapter 363, a hot man who hasn't appeared for a long time too. Wen Jiu's available spiritual power is already very limited. It can be said that she spent a lot of effort to draw such a powerful amulet. But the effect of this amulet is enough to equal the 10 she drew before. This is an amulet. It's very effective. Seeing that the handsome boy still refused to take it, Wen Jiu simply stuffed it into his shirt pocket. This action made Lu Yan's usually cold face crack a little. He had never encountered such a situation before, and for a moment he didn't know how to deal with it. Hey, don't feel psychologically burdened. Wen Jiu patted his shoulder to show his friendliness. We call this reciprocity. Since you gave me a Spring Festival red envelope, I must give you a gift. I know you may not believe in these metaphysical things, but listen to me. Wear this on your body when you return to reality, and it will keep you safe. Lu Yan calmed down and avoided the rough palm of the other party who was patting his shoulder. Then she shook her head and said slowly, I don't disbelieve it, but it's a little too expensive. He knew the effect of the amulet very well, otherwise he wouldn't have thought of getting close to Sun Badao. It's not expensive, don't worry about it. Wen Jiu didn't expect the other party to worry about this, and it's very difficult to draw the amulet. This is my new amulet after upgrading, and now only you have it. After she finished speaking, she paused for a moment and added, this is something that no one else can buy. I only give it to you. Lu Yan originally wanted to refuse this gift, but when he heard the last sentence, he suddenly didn't want to return the gift. My gift is not bad? Wen Jiu knew that he was moved by his expression. After all, her amulet is unique, and it's something that you can't buy, even if you want to. Anyone would be moved by her amulet. Well, Lu Yan responded coldly at first, then looked at the other party seriously and said, very good. After getting a positive answer, Wen Jiu took out the black-haired cotton doll. Since you often patronize my business, I will give you another gift. Lu Yan looked at the cotton doll with some confusion, not because he had never seen a cotton doll, but because he had never received such a gift since he was a child. He only saw the existence of cotton dolls in store windows. Although he wanted to have such a doll when he was a child, everyone told him that it was not what he needed. Over time, he no longer wanted cotton dolls. Unexpectedly, this year when he was about to turn 17, he actually received the gift he wanted most when he was 7 years old. When Jiu saw that the other party had no reaction for a long time and couldn't help asking, what's wrong? Don't you like it? After saying that, she shook the cotton doll in her hand. She felt that this black-haired doll was made very delicately, and from the appearance, it looks quite like this handsome boy. I don't know if the shop owner has seen the handsome boy. It can't be such a coincidence. No. Lu Yan finally came back to his senses. His eyes fell on the cotton doll in the other person's hand, and paused for a moment. Then he said in a very weak voice, no dislike. When Jiu asked with a puzzled look, what did you say just now? His voice was too low just now, and the hawking of the vendors around was particularly loud, so when Jiu couldn't hear what he said just now. I said thank you. Lu Yan's eyes were still focused on the cotton doll. The other person's expression reminded Wen Jiu of herself when she had no money before. When she first came to this world, she was penniless and couldn't even afford a roasted sweet potato. She could only pick up garbage in the garbage dump to eat every day, and it was very lucky to pick up the nutrient solution that was not drunk clean. You know, when she was in modern times, although she lived in the deep mountains and forests and had to practice every day, everyone in the sect spoiled her and let her go. The first thing the brothers and sisters did when they came back from the city was to give her all kinds of delicious and fun things they brought back. She had never lived such a hard life of picking up garbage for a living. One night, she walked a long way to sell scraps, and on the way back, she saw a stall selling roasted sweet potatoes. Although the sweet potatoes were roasted like charcoal, she was still very greedy. But because she didn't have many star coins, to buy roasted sweet potatoes. She could only stare at the roasted sweet potatoes with a look of desire in her eyes. However, no matter how long she stood there and looked, the roasted sweet potatoes that didn't belong to her would never belong to her. So when she saw the expression of the handsome boy, she unconsciously thought of her past self. So when Jiu took 2 steps forward, handed the cotton doll to the other party and said softly, "It's yours now. You have to take good care of it." Lu Yan took the cotton doll in a daze. The soft touch in his hand made him feel lightheaded, as if his heart had turned into the feathers of a flying bird at this moment. "And you don't have to tell me you spent money on this doll. My friend gave me a pair of dolls during the spring festival, and I thought you would like them, so I gave one of them to you." When Jiu was afraid that he would say something polite again, she really didn't like those polite words. "Oh, by the way, it's wearing that baby outfit." She took out a set of college clothes given by Zhang Zuangshi and handed it to him. "Here is another set of college clothes for it to change into. Take it back and see if you are satisfied. If you have any clothes you want later, you can send me a message. I will go to my friend to buy them, and you can transfer the star coins to me later." She felt that the handsome boy liked this doll very much, otherwise he wouldn't have held it so tightly. In fact, she didn't know how to take care of this kind of doll, but she thought that the owner of the doll shop was there anyway. If the handsome boy really came to her to ask questions about the doll, she would go to the owner for answers and then tell him. "Okay, thank you." Lu Yan rarely showed a gentle smile, just like the 1,000-year-old snow turned into sweet ice cream in an instant, making Wen Jiu feel like a deer running wildly. But she quickly calmed down. She firmly believed that she must have hallucinated, because she felt that she would only run wildly towards a mountain of gold and silver. "You're welcome, and I have to thank you for creating extra income for me." When Jiu thought it would be better to change the subject, because the handsome boy looked much better when he smiled than when he had a cold face, which made her always unable to help but glance at him. So it was better to find a topic to divert her attention as soon as possible. Chapter 364, A Hot Man Who Hasn't Appeared for a Long Time 3. When Jiu took out another cotton doll, this girl doll was left for her to play with. The main reason was that this doll looked like her, otherwise she would have given it to Kao Shishi, who couldn't take her eyes off the doll. "What is this?" Lu Yan asked unconsciously when he saw her take out another doll. Hearing this, Wen Jiu smiled and replied, "Didn't I just say that my friend gave me a pair of cotton dolls?" Lu Yan could understand the rest without her saying anything. He first stared at the cotton doll in his hand seriously for a while, and then glanced at the doll in the other person's hand. This back and forth made Wen Jiu couldn't help but ask, "Do you want both?" Although she really wanted to keep this girl doll to play with, if the other party was willing to pay star coins for it, then she could give it to him. She would give some star coins to the store owner later. However, Lu Yan just shook his head and said nothing, and then put his eyes on the girl doll in her hand again. When Jiu understood immediately, "Do you want me to give you the baby girl, and then you return the baby boy to me?" Unexpectedly, the handsome boy looked cold and indifferent, but he actually liked to play with cute baby girls. You can't judge a person by his appearance. So she handed the baby girl over generously, and exchanged the baby boy back without waiting for the handsome boy to react. "You have to treat this baby girl well. This is what my friend did for my daughter." When Jiu almost let it slip, but fortunately she reacted quickly enough to smooth it over in time. "Do you really have 2 children?" Lu Yan never liked to ask questions, especially when he wanted to know something. He only needed to use the authority to search for information. If he really wanted to find out Sun Badao's true identity, he could use the authority to browse the Star Network backend and find the other party's information at a glance. As long as the federal citizens use the wisdom ring in the normal way, their information will be entered into the backend for sealing. But as long as they have the authority of the backend system, they can read and view the information. But he didn't want to get to know Sun Badao in this way, because for the first time he had the idea of making friends with someone, so he hoped that he could get in touch with Sun Badao in a normal way. When Jiu was stunned for a few seconds when she heard this question, and she didn't know how to answer the other party. If she continued to make up the lie she had told before, it would be fine, but she didn't want to make up lies now, especially when she was stared at by the handsome boy's deep eyes. She actually had the urge to tell the truth. But she quickly came to her senses, and it was impossible to reveal her identity. If she rashly revealed her real information, not to mention whether the other party would spread her real information at will. She didn't even know the handsome boy's name now. This kind of information asymmetry was really a loss. So when Jiu had an idea and said mysteriously, the Star Network world is full of truth and falsehood, and truth. If you are destined to be with me, you will know the truth sooner or later. If you are not destined to be with me, we will be separated sooner or later. So what does it matter whether it is true or false? There is a will in the dark, and everything is the best arrangement. If it were someone else, they would be fooled by her words, but she now met Lu Yan, who was extremely serious about everything. Yeah. Lu Yan's eyebrows, which were originally a little raised, fell back to their original position after hearing her words. Just like his heart, which had been a little turbulent, it returned to calm at this time. How could he not hear the deception and cover up in Sun Badao's mouth? But he could also understand why the other party did this. The Star Network world is originally a virtual world. Many people use fake images and fake identities to find a rare joy or stability in reality. It's just that he doesn't like to exist in a false form, because the people he meets in reality are hypocritical enough, so he uses his real image in the Star Network world, and has not deliberately hidden his identity. Well, if there's nothing else, I'll leave first. When Jiu saw that the handsome boy's happy expression disappeared, and she felt a little uneasy inexplicably. She felt that what she said was very good, and it was in line with Sun Badao's half-immortal image. But why did the handsome boy's face fall after hearing it, and even his beautiful phoenix eyes were filled with indifference? Obviously, the hawker's cries were still ringing one after another, and there were many customers chatting and strolling around. Everything was so lively and joyful. But when Jiu felt as if she and the handsome boy were the only ones here at the moment, and she was feeling cold because of his cold gaze, it was strange. Isn't this a virtual world? Why did she suddenly feel cold? Fortunately, this feeling did not last long, and she felt the warmth return in just a moment. I have something to do in reality, so I'll log off first. When Jiu felt that this feeling was too strange, she just wanted to log off quickly to find out what was going on. Besides, she had to prepare for the evening business, so it was really inconvenient for her to stay in the Star Network world for a long time. Hearing this, Lu Yan just looked away and lowered his eyes. This made Wen Jiu feel that he was a bit like a wounded puppy, or the kind that was abandoned by its owner. So she added, I recently opened a store in reality, so I have less time to come to the Star Network world. Anyway, you have my Star Network account. If you have anything to say, you can send me a message, and I will definitely reply to you. This is a privilege she gave to the handsome boy, who made him handsome and rich, and he just happened to be in her aesthetic point. After she finished speaking, it was a long time before the handsome boy nodded and whispered, okay, then let's talk later. Don't forget to come and chat with me. When Jiu waved with a smile, and then chose to leave the Star Network world. The moment she left, Lu Yan also returned to his reality. As soon as he returned to reality, he heard a steady and powerful sound of footsteps approaching, so he quickly stood up and walked quickly towards the door of the lounge. Lu Yan had just walked to the door for less than 2 seconds when he saw the door of the lounge slowly open to the left. A dazzling halo appeared in front of his eyes, but he still maintained a straight and upright posture like a pine tree. The members of the parliament voted at this meeting. At present, the number of votes in favor of the proposal is the same as the number of votes against it, and 2 participants abstained from voting. Then hold another vote, and participants are prohibited from abstaining from voting. Also, let the people from the research institute speed up the progress. This is the head of the family. Jin Qianfeng's voice stopped abruptly, causing the assistant who was reporting and recording behind him to look up. Today's first update has been delivered, please check it, little angels. Thank you to every little angel who voted, followed the update, and rewarded. Thank you for your support. 030. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 365. A hot man who hasn't appeared for a long time. Hello, young master. The moment he saw Lu Yan, Jin Qianfeng changed his previous arrogant look and immediately became servile. Even the assistant behind him quickly lowered his head and bowed in a very standard way to greet Lu Yan. Yeah. Lu Yan only responded coldly and then glanced at the corridor without leaving a trace. In addition to Jin Qianfeng and the other party's assistant, there were 3 or 4 strangers he didn't know, but those people didn't dare to greet him or speak casually, just lowered their heads and stood there in silence. Jin Qianfeng had long been accustomed to Lu Yan's coldness and just smiled and flattered him. Young master, I'm sorry to disturb your rest. We will leave now. After that, he bent down very respectfully, took his assistant and others, and took 3 steps back. It was not until the door of the lounge closed that he stood up and restored his arrogant look. How do you do things? You didn't even inform me that the young master was in the lounge. Fortunately, the young master didn't make a fuss, otherwise both you and I would be kicked out of the imperial capital star today. Jin Qianfeng straightened his tie with his hand and then continued, let's go to the lounge on the 3rd floor to continue the discussion. Remember to report to the head of the family that the young master left early. Fortunately, only some unimportant people came and Lu Yan sat back on the sofa and fell into deep thought. However, before he could think quietly, he saw that the light in the lounge suddenly became dim and at the same time a holographic 3-dimensional figure was projected. Lu Yan's cold expression added a hint of vigilance and he stood up very quickly and saluted the figure. General. The holographic figure standing in front of Lu Yan was extremely realistic. If you didn't distinguish carefully, it would be like a real person. No need to be polite, and I have said many times that there is no need to be bound by etiquette between you and me. Lu Yan did not respond, but kept his eyes down. The holographic portrait in front of him was very similar to his eyebrows and eyes, but the other party was a few points taller than him, and the expression on his face was not so cold. Forget it, sit down first. Lu Xi pinched his eyebrows, and it was not difficult to see that he was a little irritated at this time. Every time he faced Lu Yan, he didn't know what to say. The other party was indifferent and didn't like to interact with others. Even with his own brother, he rarely communicated. This caused them to become more and more unfamiliar. Every time they communicated, it was for the official business of the 1st military region, and there was almost no private communication. Lu Yan just stood straight in place, like a pine tree standing upright in the cold wind. He stared at the portrait in front of him with cold eyes. This scene made Lu Xi feel even more headache. He was originally resting on the spaceship and waiting to arrive at the destination, but the people around the head of the family suddenly sent a message asking him to connect with Lu Yan and also ordered a bunch of annoying things for him to do. He wanted to communicate with Lu Yan through the star network, but the other party seemed to have turned off the message reception, and the people from the head of the family were pressing him, so he could only use his authority to forcibly connect to the indoor communication of the lounge. Why did you leave the meeting room early? Lu Xi was helpless with Lu Yan's behavior of standing there, so he could only start asking questions in a business-like manner. More than 10 minutes passed, and he didn't get anything out of him. Besides, it wasn't the first time that the other party left the meeting in the middle of the meeting. He really didn't understand why the head of the family asked him to ask such a thing. The last thing, the head of the family noticed that you have been going to the Star Network world more recently. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Yan suddenly became alert, and the indifference in his eyes became stronger. You can rest assured that the head of the family has not sent anyone to check the background yet. After all, Lu Xi is 10 years older than Lu Yan and has been in the 1st military region for so many years, so his ability to observe words and expressions is naturally much better. He gave Lu Yan a few seconds to calm down and then continued, the Star Network world is just a virtual world, a product of the Federation's high technology. No matter who you meet, or what happens to you on it, you should know that it is all fake. The master of the family will not spend more time to check your affairs in the Star Network world. He always likes to solve problems in the simplest and most convenient way. He means to have someone cancel your current Star Network account directly. Lucy I just finished speaking, and then he heard Lu Yan asked coldly, why? This surprised him a little, because in the past, the other party would not ask any questions about anything the master of the family ordered, just like an emotionless simulation robot, only knowing to follow the master's words to execute orders. The master of the family said that after cancelling this account, he will give you an account that is supervised by the military region in real time to prevent your identity from being leaked in the Star Network world and to prevent those who are interested from approaching you through the Star Network world. In fact, Lucy I understood the master's order more. After all, Lu Yan is a high spiritual genius that is extremely rare in the Federation. It can be said that he is born to be a good commander. When he enters the first military region in the future, he will not only be a commander who can lead 10,000 people to fight against interstellar monsters, but also a person who can keep the first military region firmly in the first place. After explaining what he needed to explain, Lucy I disconnected because he was about to reach his destination. Lu Yan still stood straight like a pine tree, but he couldn't help clenching his fists. The blue light kept flashing in his eyes, and twisted black patterns emerged from his slender neck. The temperature began to drop rapidly, and the cold mist spread little by little. But he quickly found an inhibitor from the Ziggy space, and then rolled his throat to drink the inhibitor. The temperature around him began to slowly warm up, and the black patterns on his body were gradually fading. Lu Yan knew very well that he couldn't lose control at this time, otherwise the head of the family would notice his abnormality and send people to seriously investigate his whereabouts in the Star Network world, and then Sun Badao would definitely be found out by them. He didn't want to implicate Sun Badao, even if the other party was just an online friend, but he was also someone who could comfort his heart. Therefore, he absolutely could not lose control at this time. He pursed his lips tightly and endured the severe pain brought by the inhibitor. Sweat kept sliding from his forehead to his well-defined jaw. When the pain like 1,000 needles piercing him faded, Lu Yan fell weakly on the sofa. But he did not faint. He opened the light screen panel and quickly deleted various information, including various records between him and Sun Badao. After clearing these records, Lu Yan's fingertips fell on the 1 centimeter of deleting friends and trembled a little. It stands to reason that he and Sun Badao are just ordinary netizens. There are thousands of people in the Star Network world. Deleting a netizen is actually no big deal. But he didn't know why, and he actually felt a little reluctant in his heart. Today's second update has also been successfully delivered. Thank you for your support. Woohoo, the Spring Festival holiday is almost over. So sad. No abuse, no abuse. Please believe that I'm a sweet author equals W equals. Chapter 366. Sister Farke's blessing has arrived. 1. Mr. Sun, I really hope I can be your destined person. Wen Jiu was a little confused when she saw this message, because she felt that the other party's words were strange. But she still typed the message carefully. She thought that the handsome boy had transferred so many star coins to her before, so it was okay for him to chat with her without giving her star coins now. After all, the Spring Festival red envelopes transferred by the handsome boy were enough to chat with her for a long time. 9. Fate. Wonderful. The other party has turned on friend verification. You are not her friend yet. Please send a friend request first. You can chat only after the other party approves it. As soon as she clicked to send the message, she saw such a prompt pop up on the light screen panel, and there was a particularly conspicuous red symbol next to the message box she sent. Wen Jiu fell into silence immediately. Could she have been scammed by the Star Network? But the handsome boy was so rich, there was no need to cheat her of dolls and talismans. Could it be that he accidentally deleted her friend? Or was he angry because she was too fussy? But she felt that she spoke very well and seriously. Family wealth. 9. Way. Mr. Lu, the other party has turned on friend verification. You are not her friend yet. Please send a friend request first. You can chat only after the other party approves it. This is very embarrassing. It was the handsome boy who added her at the beginning, and she didn't add the handsome boy. She didn't even remember what the other party's Star Network account was. She flipped through the previous friend request list and found the handsome boy's Star Network account, but when she clicked to send the friend request, a pop-up window appeared again, which silenced her. The Star Network account has been cancelled. Please check before proceeding. Wen Jiu was now confused and speechless. How could they chat well in the afternoon, but disappeared in the evening? Jiu, Zikingayu asked someone to send the clothes over. She was thinking about how to solve it when she saw Kaioshishi carrying a box and walked into the bedroom. After they finished their evening business and returned home, they remembered that Chujian had no daily necessities and no enough clothes to change. So she asked Zikingayu for help and sent a few sets of his brother's clothes. I don't know how Zizu, who is less than 1.8 meters tall, can have so many clothes that are suitable for Chujian. You know, Chujian is almost 1.9 meters tall. As for underwear and shoes, Wen Jiu was still very generous to open the Star Network supermarket and then selected the cheapest ones to place an order. After the purchase, she reminded Chujian again that he had to work to pay back the star coins he spent. There were ready-made daily necessities at home, but Wen Jiu still kept a careful account. It was impossible to eat and drink for free from her. Then you throw the clothes to him at the door, knock on the door twice, and ask him to come out and get them. I don't know why Kaioshishi was still a little afraid of Chujian, and she didn't want to have much contact with him after returning. But isn't this a bad idea? Kaioshishi sighed and sat on the bed. I still prefer Ziohei, even though he's always fierce and won't let you touch him. Although they all knew that Ziohei was Chujian in disguise, they still couldn't connect Ziohei and Chujian together cognitively. Nothing wrong. Then you can play in the room. I'll go throw the clothes over. Wen Jiu closed the light screen panel and got off the bed, carrying the box, and walked towards the bedroom door. She thought about coming back later to ask the guest who brought the handsome boy to see her. The relationship between the two people seemed to be pretty good, and they should be friends in the real world. It's not that she wanted to pester the handsome boy, but she felt that people should have a beginning and an end in mind, and it was more or less impolite to take her doll and talisman and then disappear. Chujian, I put the clothes for you at the door. Wen Jiu casually threw the box in front of the guest room door and then knocked on the door. When she was about to turn around and leave, Chujian opened the door and walked out. I have accepted so many things from you. Do I have to work in your store until my next life? He squatted on the ground and opened the box and found that it was filled with all kinds of clothes. Hearing this, Wen Jiu shrugged and said, yes, it is natural to pay back debts, but these clothes are donated by others as a friendly donation. You just need to pay off the star coins you owe me. As soon as she finished speaking, she saw Chujian raised his head. The other party suddenly raised his eyebrows, his eyes fearless and a little lazy, making her feel like she was back to last night. But this look soon dissipated, leaving only an innocent and docile look. Okay, thank you so much for taking care of me. I will work hard to pay off my debts. Chujian silently moved the box back to the room. This made Wen Jiu feel a little weird, but she stared at him for a long time and didn't find anything else unusual. Chujian put the box away and walked over again. His eyes were very pure and sincere. Well, do you have anything else to do? No, go to bed early. Wen Jiu looked at him. I wish you can get your memory back soon. When you have money, you don't have to work. She smiled and said, before turning around and leaving. She closed the door of the guest room before leaving. Jiu, you're back. Kaioshishi was sending a message to Kyojawen, who was leaving planet 3047 the day after tomorrow. My cousin asked if you are free tomorrow afternoon. She wants to give us a gift before she leaves. Wen Jiu closed the bedroom door and showed a puzzled expression. What gift? Well, she noticed the half whip you put in the living room. Then she remembered that we didn't have any weapons to use. She said it's important for us to choose a suitable weapon at our age. She just wants to take us to her acquaintance's weapon store and give us a weapon as a spring festival gift. After all, it's not very useful to practice with virtual weapons in the academy. We have to use actual weapons for actual combat. After Kyoshi said this, Wen Jiu understood. It just so happened that she had wanted to try to repair the half whip for a long time. Although the whip was missing a handle, it was quite easy for her to use it. And she remembered that when practicing with weapons, she chose to use a complete whip, which was much more powerful than hers. Tomorrow afternoon is fine. We can leave after the business closes at noon. After communicating the time with Kyoshi, Wen Jiu sat down on the bed and opened the light curtain panel. She first needs to communicate with the person in charge of Wuai Food about the cooperation, and then ask the customer about the handsome boy. 9. Hello, I'm the host of the food section of Bikaliv. Gongzi Farke. Today's third update is also perfectly delivered. Hehe, thanks again to the little angels for their support. 030. Chapter 367. Sister Farke's blessing has arrived too. Mingyahan had just sent his brother to the hovercraft, and the younger brother had to return to the Imperial Military Academy to complete his studies. Apart from completing tasks, he could not stay outside the school for too long. Mr. Ming, Ms. Gongzi Fake has sent you a message online. The cooperation with the anchor was originally handled by others, but when he received the snowflake crisps sent by the other party in the afternoon, he knew that this cooperation was completely different from the previous ones. The taste of the snowflake crisps was far better than all the snacks he had eaten before. The crispy and fragrant flavor was accompanied by soft and sweet sourness. Each flavor was matched very well, and the perfect fusion was not abrupt. Moreover, he and Mingyu ate several pieces without feeling greasy. They just felt that the more they chewed the snowflake crisps in their mouths, the more addictive they were. Paired with slightly bitter black tea, the taste of the snowflake crisps was particularly sweet. Therefore, Mingyahan was sure that if Wuai Food launched the snowflake crisps product, it would be able to successfully enter and occupy the snack market in the Federation. Okay, I'll be back soon. He walked back to his study quickly, dimmed the lights, and then opened the light curtain panel. Mingyahan originally wanted to have a video call with Gongzi Fake, but the other party said that it was not convenient for him, and hoped to communicate in the form of a voice call first. So he clicked the voice call icon, and waited for the call to be answered. Gongzi Fake quickly answered the call, but the voice that came made Mingyahan a little stunned. Because the voice he heard during the live broadcast was the kind of deep and gentle voice of a middle-aged woman, but the voice that came at this time was both crisp and melodious, sounding like a child who has not yet reached the voice change period. He knew that these anchors would use voice changers to adjust their voices during the live broadcast. Some anchors did this to make their voices sound better, while some anchors made their voices sound funny for the live broadcast effect. But it was the first time he encountered someone who changed his voice from a child to a middle-aged person. Mingyahan quickly calmed down. Although he did not believe that Gongzi Fake's identity was as outrageous as rumored, he also did not believe that the other party would be a child in his teens. So he said respectfully, "Hello, Ms. Gongzi Fake, I'm the person in charge of this cooperation with you, and also the founder of Wuai Food, Mingyi Han." Wow, the voice of this person in charge is quite nice. Kyoshi leaned close to Wen Jiu's ear and spoke very softly. Wen Jiu nodded in response to her, and then said leisurely, "Hello, Mr. Ming. Ms. Gongzi Fake is very busy recently. I'm her assistant Kyuan Gun Gun. This time, I will meet with you to discuss the cooperation of Zuhuasu. It is impossible for her to really become a middle-aged person, and she will have to sign the contract with her real identity later, so the vest of Gongzi Fake will definitely not be covered, so she can only change into a new vest for the time being. Hello, Miss Kyuan Gun Gun. I don't mean to offend you, but I feel that you are not very old from your voice. Are you sure you can represent Ms. Gongzi Fake to meet with me for a detailed discussion?" Mingyi Han showed a hint of hesitation after hearing the other party's words, because no matter how you listen to the crisp and melodious voice, it sounds like the voice of a teenager. As soon as he expressed his doubts, he heard the other party answer them very quickly, and also took the initiative in this conversation. "Okay, but I'm short on time tonight. I'll explain my intention to cooperate with you now. If you have any questions, just ask them directly. Let's try to make a quick decision and make a preliminary plan. We want to cooperate in the form of authorized formula. After all, it's impossible for you to find the formula of snowflake crisps from other people. That is to say, I will provide you with detailed recipes and production methods. You have to pay me a part of the deposit first, and then give me dividends based on sales. The idea of authorized formula was the inspiration given to Wen Jiu by Zizou. She originally wanted to find a food processing factory for simple cooperation, to pay off the debt she owed for snowflake crisps. But she thought about it seriously later. Since she had reached the stage of cooperating with the factory, why not try to promote the sale of snowflake crisps? She was determined to become the richest person in the Federation, and there was a huge gap in the snack market in the Federation. She must seize such a good business opportunity. Wen Jiu believed that a snowflake crisps would definitely capture the snack market and become a hit snack in the Federation. Do you mean to make a batch of free snowflake crisps as a test, and then officially produce and arrange for sale? Because Wen Jiu still owed a large order for snowflake crisps, she proposed a plan to make free snowflake crisps as a test, and then make appropriate adjustments based on the audience's feedback, and finally officially produce and arrange for sale. She can pay for the material costs of this batch of free orders, but the food processing factory must help her produce it. Otherwise there is no need for her to cooperate alone. The plan you proposed is very good, but if possible, I hope that we can pay for all the expenses. Ming Yahan thought about this plan seriously. Before launching a new food, market research should be conducted. It just so happens that Gong Zifake has ready-made audiences to do tasting surveys. He might as well take advantage of the situation and cover all the expenses. On the one hand, he can show his sincerity for this cooperation, and on the other hand, he can save the step of market research. After all, so many viewers have placed orders for snowflake crisps, and then he only needs to do a small survey to get feedback. Mr. Ming is very sincere. Wen Jiu was immediately more energetic when she heard that the other party was willing to pay. Although she was prepared to pay for it herself, because the free snowflake crisps were originally a reward for her fans, she would not refuse if Wu Yao Food was willing to pay. When she spoke again, her tone was much more relaxed and cheerful than before. In addition to the snowflake crisps, I can also send you a peanut nougat. You can try it and see how it tastes. If you are satisfied, we can discuss a new cooperation. The main reason was that she was very satisfied with the conditions given by Ming Yahan, and the other party's sincerity was also very sufficient, so she felt that she could give another formula. Okay, then I will ask someone to draw up a plan. After it is drawn up, I will send it to you for your review. If you think it is okay, we will discuss it in detail later. Ming Yahan has reduced his suspicion of the money rolling in, because he thinks it is difficult for children to speak so coherently. Moreover, the other party can completely take the initiative in talking to him, and make what he wants to talk about clear in this hour. Finally, I threw out peanut nougat to attract his attention, letting him know that Gong Zifake is definitely a partner worth taking seriously. This conversation really exceeded his imagination. Today's first update was successfully delivered. Woohoo! The Spring Festival holiday is over. Cac. Here I wish our players to win more gold medals in the Winter Olympics. W = Chapter 368 Beating the Kitten 1. Wen Jiu was a little lost in thought when she looked at the interface after hanging up. She didn't expect that this conversation would go so smoothly. At first, when she heard the other party say that she was the founder of Wu Yao Food, she was still worried that her vest would be exposed. As a result, the other party only asked about her age once, and the subsequent conversation was always following her rhythm. It seems that her conversation skills are still better, and she successfully made the other party ignore her strange identity. There is no way she will never reveal her vest before the deal is completely settled. And even if it is agreed that it is time to sign the contract, she will ask Wu Yao Food not to reveal her identity, like she did with AOS Pharmaceuticals, and must help her cover up the vest of congratulations and prosperity. The main reason is that she is still too young now. If her real identity is exposed, it will probably bring her some difficult to solve troubles. Jiu, I'm going to take a shower first. Kyoshi just listened for a long time, fearing that she would encounter a scammer from Star Network. Because Wuiao Food is a well-known food company in the Federation, she is worried that Wen Jiu will be deceived by that kind of imposter. But it seems that the other party is quite reliable at the moment, not to mention that no one dares to cheat under the name of the founder of Wuiao Food. After listening to the conversation for a while, Kyoshi was relieved. Okay, go ahead. Wen Jiu sent his proposal to Ming Yan in the form of text, and then she found the customer who knew the handsome boy. Family Wealth 9. Little brother, how is the handsome boy you brought before? Ming Yu just dimmed the lights in the flying car and wanted to have a good sleep and saw a prompt box popped up on the light screen panel that he had not closed yet, indicating that there was a new message. Future master of the Ming family. Master son, are you asking about my brother Lu? Ming Yu was a little confused by the message that Sun Badao suddenly sent. He remembered that the other party had Lu Yan's Star Network friend. Why did he come to him to ask such a question? Could it be that Sun Badao calculated that his brother Lu was in trouble recently and wanted to tell him to help him in a tactful way? So Ming Yu hurriedly sent a few more messages, fearing that he would miss the opportunity to help Lu Yan, but the other party just said that he thought too much. Family Wealth 9. I have something to ask Mr. Lu, but he seems to be busy recently. If you are willing, please tell him to return my baby to me. Wen Jiu closed the light curtain panel after sending this message. She faintly heard some strange sounds, which seemed to come from the guest room. Her master bedroom was next to the guest room, so if the master bedroom was absolutely quiet, she could hear the slightly louder sounds in the guest room. In addition, after her ears had undergone a mutation, her hearing was much more sensitive than that of ordinary people, so she got out of bed and wanted to go to the guest room to find out. However, Wen Jiu didn't know how much of a shock his sudden disappearance had brought to Ming Yu. Future master of the Ming family, master son, why don't I understand what you are saying? Why do you want my brother Lu to return your baby? Ming Yu could understand the first half of Sun Badao's words, because Lu Yan was indeed very busy. He had to go to school at the Imperial Military Academy and participate in various military district tasks in his free time, so it was normal that he had no time to reply to messages. But Sun Badao's second half of the sentence confused him. He knew that Sun Badao was a man with a child, but what did his child have to do with his brother Lu? Could it be that his brother Lu had snatched Sun Badao's child? So the other party asked Lu Yan to return the child? But what was the use of Lu Yan snatching Sun Badao's child? And he didn't think Lu Yan was someone who would snatch a child. Thinking of this, Ming Yu couldn't help but send another message. He felt that this matter was too outrageous. Lu Yan couldn't do such a thing as snatching someone's child. Future master of the Ming family, master son, can you please make your words clearer? If my brother Lu really snatched your child, I will definitely help you. I will try my best to plead for you. Although he and Lu Yan are now a little closer, he can't guarantee that the other party will listen to what he says. However, time passed by, and until he returned to the Imperial Capital Military Academy, he did not receive a reply from Sun Badao. This made Ming Yu start to panic. He felt that Lu Yan was not the kind of person who would snatch the child, but why did Sun Badao say that Lu Yan should return the child? All kinds of questions circled in his mind, but no one could answer them for him. Lu Yan was still attending a meeting at the base of the 1st Military Region, and it would take at least a week before he could return to the Imperial Capital Military Academy. As for Sun Badao, who had not replied to his message for a long time, he was having a headache at this time. To teach the bad cat a lesson, you squat in the corner. Wen Jiu looked at the cotton all over the floor in a somewhat collapsed manner. She didn't expect that the guest room that was still tidy and clean an hour ago would become so messy now. I'm sorry, I just... Shut up, shut up. If you say one more word, I'll beat you up. She swung the vine in her hand and forced Chujian into a narrow corner. Wen Jiu never expected that Chujian said that he retained some of the habits of a cat, referring to the habit of destroying the house, such as scratching the soft mattress and pillows, resulting in the ground being covered with white cotton. Kyoshi, who heard the noise here, ran over in a hurry. As soon as she entered the door, she was stunned by the cotton all over the floor. Shishi, you are here. Let us mourn for the lost pillows and quilts. Wen Jiu looked at Kyoshi with a smile, which made the other party feel frightened. Because Wen Jiu seemed to be smiling happily, but in fact there was no smile in his eyes, so Kyoshi couldn't help swallowing her saliva. She was wondering if she should find a reason to leave, so as not to see the scene of the other party beating Chujian violently. I suddenly remembered that Zikingayu just sent me a message. Kyoshi forced a smile. You two can chat first, I'll go back and reply to him first. After saying that, she fled the tragic scene of the pillow and quilt and returned to the master bedroom and quickly sent a message to Zikingayu. Kyo's eye ocean is going to shine. Jiu is going to beat Chujian up. Shocked cat expression. She thought Zikingayu would take a while to reply. After all, the other party was still attending the Z family's family dinner at the moment and was probably too busy to read the message. Unexpectedly, Zikingayu replied quickly just a few seconds after she sent the message. Gull is the first in the Interstellar. Really? Then let's have a video call secretly and let me see Chujian being beaten. Kyoshi naturally couldn't call him on video to see the scene. She had just finished typing in the dialogue box and didn't even think about it when she heard Wen Jiu's furious voice. Today's second update is delivered perfectly. Thank you to every little angel who followed, voted, and rewarded. Thank you to the little angel 030 who helped the little author catch bugs. PS. Jiu Academy is on holiday, but it does not mean that other academies are also on holiday. Chapter 369 Beating the Kitten 2. Do you think you can get away with it by pretending to be stupid? Do you know how many star coins it costs to buy a set of bedding? In fact, Wen Jiu didn't know how many star coins it cost, because all the bedding she was using now was free with the purchase of the house. But this did not affect her heartache for the lost pillows and quilts. I'm sorry, I don't know why I suddenly wanted to grab something. Chujian squatted in the corner with his hands on his head in embarrassment. His charming deep purple eyes were full of innocence and grievance. Wen Jiu was even angrier. Is this the reason you killed victims such as pillows, quilts, and mattresses? Don't you think this reason is funny? As soon as she finished speaking, Chujian's eyes suddenly became fierce. This sudden change in his eyes made Wen Jiu quickly enter a defensive state. She clenched the vine whip in her hand and summoned 3 fireballs to burn around her. Chujian's expression gradually turned cold. He leaned against the wall and slowly stood up. I didn't kill them, I just cleaned up the dirt. Anyway, they also want me to do this, hoping that I can be the most perfect monster. The moment he finished speaking, he attacked Wen Jiu like lightning, and his originally bony hands turned into black cat claws at this moment. Seeing that his cat claws were about to grab Wen Jiu's slender neck, he was dodged by the other party. Chujian, if you don't want to pay, just say it directly, don't go crazy here. Wen Jiu glanced at Chujian coldly, and then quickly swung out the vine whip. The thick and tough vines brought a cold gust of wind. When it was about to fall on Chujian, he nimbly turned back to avoid it, and then landed steadily on the ground. He supported the ground with both hands like a cat, staring straight at Wen Jiu. Your eyes can really change color? What a coincidence, my flames can also change color. Wen Jiu smiled and snapped his fingers. The orange-red fireball behind him instantly turned into a dark blue color, and at the same time, the temperature in the room suddenly rose. It was also because Chujian was looking at her like this that she realized that his deep purple eyes, like Sujishi, were stained with a dazzling golden color when the cat's claws appeared. Is this some kind of transformation theorem? While transforming into a cat, the color of the other party's eyes will also change. But now is not a good time to think about the problem. She has to deal with this bad cat first, otherwise her beloved little house will be in danger. I don't think you want to eat dried fish. Try my big fireball. After saying that, she launched a fireball attack in the direction of Chujian, and her eyes followed the other party who was flexibly rolling and dodging. After all, this was in her house. If she didn't control the strength of the attack, a deep sea blue flame fireball would probably set her guest room on fire. Heh. She perfectly controlled the attack of each fireball. As long as Chujian dodged it, she would quickly extinguish the flame to prevent a fire. Chujian's movements were flexible and light, no different from the posture of a cat. It's just that the space in the guest room is not large, so he can only jump up and down in a limited range, which also gave Wen Jiu the opportunity to catch him. The vines flew with his movements. Just when he wanted to avoid the fireball attacking from behind, he found himself in a dense net woven by vines. Wen Jiu suddenly tightened the vines around him and instantly bound Chu Jian into a cocoon. She didn't rush to get close to him, but only asked coldly, "Have you recovered your memory? I tell you, don't think about turning your face against me, even if you recover your memory. I remember all the debts you owe me, and you also pressed your handprint and signed your name here." She was worried that Chu Jian would want to run away after recovering his memory, so she found an opportunity to write an IOU and asked the other party to press his handprint and sign his name. It was impossible to owe her money and not pay it back. Chu Jian could run away, but old Chu couldn't. If the other party really did things without any mercy, then don't blame her for telling old Chu about these things. Let go. Chu Jian seemed to be trying his best to endure something. Before he finished speaking, he began to sweat and trembled all over. He clenched his teeth with a pale face, and a pair of black cat ears suddenly appeared in his messy dark red hair, which made Wen Jiu a little stunned for a moment. Medicine. Chu Jian's pupils were getting closer and closer to gold, and the original dark purple was about to be occupied and disappeared by gold. All this happened suddenly really made Wen Jiu dumbfounded. She didn't realize that her pointed ears were moving up and down slightly at this time. She quickly rushed back to the master bedroom and found a nutrient solution, and then under Kyoshish's stunned expression, she took the nutrient solution and ran back to the guest room. "Open your mouth." Wen Jiu stepped on the thickest vine, then quickly knocked off the lid of the nutrient solution, pinched Chu Jian's jaw, and stuffed it directly into his mouth. As Chu Jian struggled unconsciously, the light pink nutrient solution flowed out from the corner of his mouth and ripped onto the vine, but fortunately most of the nutrient solution was poured in by Wen Jiu. Not long after the nutrient solution was poured in, the gold in his eyes gradually faded, and the cat ears on his head disappeared. Wen Jiu sat on the vine panting. It seemed that her guess was correct. The nutrient solution that Zhu Wangming gave her for free could indeed temporarily suppress this abnormality. She didn't think so much at first, thinking that the nutrient solution was really just a simple nutritional supplement, until she was hospitalized some time ago. After she told Zhu Wangming about her changes, the other party said that the formula of the nutrient solution would be adjusted again, and he also repeatedly told her not to forget to drink the nutrient solution. At that time, she was wondering if the nutrient solution prepared by Zhu Wangming could temporarily suppress mutations, but she did not experience any other mutations later, so she could not verify whether this guess was correct. In addition, her two pointed ears and the sharp teeth in her mouth did not produce any changes after she drank so much nutrient solution, so she temporarily gave up the guess that the nutrient solution could suppress mutations. Unexpectedly, this action in a hurry successfully verified her guess. Hiss, what happened to Chu Jian? Kyoshi hurried to the guest room. She saw Wen Jiu's anxious look just now and thought that the other party had beaten Chu Jian to a pulp, so she was stunned in the master bedroom for a long time before she came to her senses. Countless vines tied Chu Jian into a cocoon, leaving only a messy head outside. At this time, his eyes were closed and his head was drooping, looking like he had fainted. The last update of today was successfully delivered thanks to the little angels for their support again 030. I've been too busy during the Chinese New Year recently, and I don't have time to write a thank you in the comments section. I can only thank the little angels in my words cac. Chapter 370 Dealing with the Bad Cat 1. Wen Jiu said unhappily, he was going crazy just now, and I punished him severely. She first retracted most of the vines that bound Chu Jian, leaving only a few of the toughest ones to continue to tie him up. Shishi, please go get Dab in. She glanced around the guest room. The cotton that had fallen on the ground before was now flying everywhere, making her want to wake Chu Jian up and beat him up again. Fortunately, there are cleaning robots. Although they cannot restore the damaged pillows, mattresses, quilts, etc., they can still clean the guest room. While Kaioshishi was looking for Dabe, Wen Jiu walked to Chujiadan's position and squatted down, then frantically pulled his hair. She wanted to find where the pair of black cat ears went, and by the way, she pulled 2 handfuls of hair to retaliate. After all, no one can bear the pain of being bald. Should we move him to the living room? Kaioshishi activated Dabe's automatic cleaning function, but Chujiadan was still lying on the ground, so it was inconvenient for Dabe to clean. Wen Jiu threw Chujiadan's head away in disdain, then stood up and clapped his hands and said, "Shishi, move aside. I'll throw him out with the vines." After she finished speaking, Kaioshishi obediently walked aside. She controlled the vines to grow and spread outward and threw the Tai Chujiadan into the living room. It was just that Wen Jiu's action of throwing people out was too casual, resulting in the lack of control of the force when falling. Chujiadan fell heavily to the ground. If it weren't for the outer layer of vines as a buffer, I'm afraid he would have been dizzy for a while. Let's go out too, so that Dabe can slowly clean up inside. Wen Jiu was in a bad mood now, and she didn't have time to care about Chujiadan's condition. All the bedding in the guest room was scrapped, and she had to compare whether it was cheaper to buy it again at Xinguang Supermarket or at the Donghu District shopping mall, but no matter where she bought it, it would make her already not wealthy family worse off. Nothing can make her more heartbroken than paying money. She felt that the joy of just reaching a preliminary cooperation disappeared when she saw the cotton all over the floor. "Shishi, can you help me see if there is any discount on bedding in Stonet Supermarket?" Wen Jiu collapsed on the sofa with her head down. She felt heartbroken when she thought about spending money again. Moreover, she had just finished fighting with Chujian, and she was completely exhausted. If she hadn't kept Chujian, she really wanted to beat him up and throw him out to sleep on the street. "Let me see," Kaioshishi said, opening the light screen panel. "Stonet Supermarket is having an event. You can get a 200 discount on purchases of 5,000 star coins." Wen Jiu felt even more uncomfortable when she heard this. What kind of event is a 200 discount on purchases of 5,000? It should be a 2,000 discount on purchases of 5,000 to ease the pain in her heart. So she sighed deeply and said, "You can search for the activities in the Donghu District Mall and see where you can buy it cheaper." Anyway, there was no rush to buy new bedding. Chujian had messed up the guest room like that, and he had to sleep on the floor for a few days to feel relieved. Thinking of this, she glanced at Chujian, who was still unconscious on the ground. His eyes were closed, and he didn't move at all. Only the slightly rising and falling chest could prove that he was not dead. However, in order to prevent Chujian from going crazy again, she used her supernatural power to tie him up with a few vines. After doing this, she calmed down and began to think about the nutrient solution. This batch of nutrient solution was sent by Zhuang Ming a few days ago, and he also reminded her for a long time to remember to drink it, so she drank less than 10 bottles of this box of nutrient solution. But she drank so much nutrient solution, except that her body became healthier and stronger day by day, and there was no other change. But thinking about it carefully, it can't be said that there is no change. Maybe it's because of the nutrition. Her skin color is much whiter than before, her face is much rosier, and even her height has increased by several centimeters. But her ears are still as long and pointed as before, and her 2 white sharp canine teeth are always exposed inadvertently. At least she didn't feel any effect in suppressing mutations. But when she gave Chujian the nutrient solution just now, the effect of suppressing mutations was particularly obvious, and it was effective almost instantly. Wen Jiu just thought of this when she saw Chujian's body move and let out a slight groan. So she walked quickly to Chujian and squatted, then poked his cheek with her finger. Chujian's eyelids twitched slightly, and the next second he opened his eyes full of confusion, as if he had forgotten what happened just now. "Are you awake? You owe me more than 6,000 star coins now, do you know?" Wen Jiu sneered and looked at the other person, wondering what tricks this person was going to play. After she finished speaking, Chujian just blinked in bewilderment, like a poor person who had lost his memory. This made Wen Jiu's smile even more intense, and she sneered, "Chujian, stop pretending to be innocent here. Do you know that your acting skills are terrible? Your acting skills are not as good as mine. How about I act for you?" After she finished speaking, she blinked twice, and a layer of mist instantly covered her grey blue eyes, as if a naive little girl was bullied, which was completely different from her previous indifferent and cold look. "Have you learned it? Next time you want to pretend to be innocent and pitiful, remember to squeeze out 2 tears first." As soon as she finished speaking, she saw Chu Jian sitting up with the strength of his arms. He was still bound by the vines, and could not make large movements, so he took advantage of Wen Jiu's observation to move forward suddenly, and the faint sweet breath lingered at the tip of his nose, making his deep purple eyes dim for a moment. Wen Jiu looked at him calmly, but said sarcastically, "Why don't you act anymore?" "Because, master, your acting skills are better." Chu Jian's tone was somewhat ambiguous, and he deliberately emphasized the word master, as if he was mocking Wen Jiu's previous behavior. Unexpectedly, the other party stretched out his hand and slapped his head, then slowly scratched and chuckled. "It's enough for you to know that I'm your master. Since you have recovered your memory, why not pay your debt first?" Wen Jiu tried her best to resist the urge to beat him up, and only pulled Chu Jian's hair twice. She was afraid that, if she punched him, he would faint again, and then her little money would fly away. She could beat people at any time, but she had to find the right time to collect money. Now was the best time for her to collect debts. "You owe me 100,000 star coins now. Do you plan to pay in cash or transfer?" Wen Jiu looked at Chu Jian with curved eyes. Although the two were very close, because the other person was taller, she could only look at each other with her head raised. Today's first update has been successfully delivered. Thank you little angels for your support and love. Thank you everyone. 030 warm reminder from the author. Chu Jian and Wen Jiu have no love scenes. No. The author only designated Lu Yan as the male lead. Yan and Jiu are really good together, but there is not much written now. Cac. Chapter 371 Dealing with the Bad Cat 2. Chu Jian originally wanted to use his outstanding appearance to confuse Wen Jiu, but after the other party said that he owed money, he stood up and sat back on the sofa, his face full of disgust for him. This made him a little difficult. He didn't want to be tied up like this, but he couldn't use his superpowers to attack and untie him, because he knew that if he used his superpowers, Wen Jiu would definitely attack him decisively, so he could only sit lazily on the ground, thinking about how to coax the little girl to untie him. "Chu Jian, it seems that you can't transfer money through the store network, or you can give me cash." Before Wen Jiu finished speaking, a pair of black cat ears appeared on Chu Jian's head. In the blink of an eye, a thin and fluffy cat tail grew behind the other party. He wagged his tail and smiled obediently. "Little master, untie me so we can talk." Chu Jian's peach blossom eyes were full of smiles, and the slightly raised corners of his eyes made him look more charming and seductive. With his irresistible cat ears and wagging tail, anyone who saw him would feel their heartbeats speed up. Kaioshishi, who was browsing the information of the shopping mall in Danghu district, just glanced at it, and a light blush instantly flew on her fair cheeks. She quickly ran back to the master bedroom and closed the door. She took several deep breaths before calming down. Seeing this little girl's reaction, Chu Jian moved towards Wen Jiu. He knew that no one could refuse a cat's cuteness. Indeed, no one could refuse a cat's cuteness, but he was a human now, not a cat. Wen Jiu was not moved by this scene and even wanted to laugh. "Chu Jian, if you were a little more normal, I would remove the vines on you." It was impossible to confuse her with beauty. Only money could confuse her mind. However, Chu Jian's cat ears and tail did arouse her interest, so she continued, "How do you control the appearance and disappearance of cat ears? And is your mutation direction to become a cat? Were you unconscious or conscious when you mutated just now? Are you an escaped experiment?" Wen Jiu asked several questions in a row, which made Chu Jian a little confused. But he did not answer directly, but asked back, "Are your ears and teeth caused by mutation?" After hearing this, Wen Jiu changed from a half-lying position to sitting upright. Although Chu Jian did not answer the question directly, it can be known from his words that he knows the concept of mutation. "Yes, at least my doctor said so," Wen Jiu admitted openly, and at the same time, throughout the word doctor, to see Chu Jiadan's reaction. The other party's expression became much colder, and he sneered. Doctor, they didn't tell you that as long as there is a mutation, the gene can be successfully fused. Fusion gene? Wen Jiu muttered in his heart. It seems that Chu Jiadan is indeed an experiment, otherwise he would not know about fusion genes and mutations. But the question is, when was he taken to do the experiment? Is it related to the secret training of that organization? While Wen Jiu was still thinking, Chu Jiadan silently summoned a fierce wind to cut the vines. He stood up and stretched his muscles, then raised his hands and said with a smile, "Little girl, since you saved me, I advise you not to try to get information from me. You should know that those things are not something you can solve. And I see that you don't seem to know that you have been fused with genes, so I remind you again, hide your ears and fangs." Chu Jiadan actually remembered everything when he turned into a human, but he caught a glimpse of the other party's pointed ears during the fight. Although the ears were hidden under the silver earrings, as a person who had been imprisoned in the research institute, he had seen many experimental subjects who had mutated after surgery, so he could tell at a glance that the shape of the other party's ears was wrong. After a fight, he felt that his body was still very weak, not enough to support him to leave here successfully, so he chose to pretend to have amnesia and stay for the time being and observe Wen Jiu's situation. And he can also take the opportunity to return to his former home. Although his heart has been occupied by revenge for several years, the warmth and care given to him by his grandfather cannot be erased. But before he succeeded in revenge, he had no way to see his grandfather, so he could only pretend to be stupid and wait for his body to recover. He thought that, after he succeeded in revenge, he would go to his grandfather to say sorry. However, things did not go as smoothly as he imagined. This little girl was too smart, not like a 12-year-old child at all. In fact, he did not want to expose himself tonight, and the cat habits that occasionally popped up were also real. Because his body has not fully recovered, and the original gene fusion was not successful, he would occasionally be dominated by cat thinking, and do things that he did not want to do. As for the attack on Wen Jiu, there were two reasons. One was that he was not sober enough at the time, and the other was that the other party's words poked the pain point in his heart. He will always remember everything that happened. Those people accused him and besieged him in a hypocritical manner, forcing him to flee the college competition. After his physical strength was exhausted, he turned into a cat and became a homeless stray cat. It's funny that he, a living person, has been a stray cat for 3 whole years. Then I will give you a piece of advice, because you have been zio-heady for a while. Wen Jiu paused here, and because Lao Chu rented the shop to me at a low price. If you run away now, you will definitely be hunted by the Federal War Police. It's better to compensate me and continue to live with me. At least you don't have to live a life of eating and sleeping in the open. Wen Jiu saw through Chu Jiadan's thoughts at a glance. The other party probably wanted to leave here, but Chu Jiadan was still on the wanted list of Sto Network. If he ran away from her and was arrested by the Federal War Police in the future, it would be troublesome to find out that he was related to her, and her doubts have not been answered yet. If she just let Chu Jiadan leave, she would lose too much. Chu Jiadan originally wanted to leave and go to another place to recuperate, but after hearing her words, he fell into deep thought. You can stay and continue to work for me, and as long as you answer my questions well, I can help you recover from your injuries. Wen Jiu saw that he seemed to be thinking, so he continued to offer his own conditions. Anyway, no matter how the other party weighed and calculated, it would be impossible to find a better place than here. After a long time, Chu Jiadan really agreed to her conditions. Don't regret making a decision to keep me. The corners of his mouth rose slightly, as if he was mocking Wen Jiu and himself. However, the other party only smiled and replied, as long as you work hard to pay off your debts, then I won't regret it. Today's second update has also been successfully delivered. Thank you again for your support. I wish the little angels who are already working a good start. 030. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 372 Weapon Transformation 1. The gentle breeze caressed her cheeks, and the spring light shone softly on the earth. The temperature finally warmed up again, and the hustle and bustle of the business district was much louder than yesterday. Let's go. Let's take the bus. Wen Jiu wore a maroon fleece sweater. The gentle breeze, that seemed gentle to others, made her shiver when it blew on her. There was a faint blush on the tip of her nose and cheeks, which made her skin look even fairer. The hair that she had cut haphazardly before had already grown below her shoulders. In order to make it easier to take care of it, she took scissors and cut it back to her neck when she got up in the morning. I don't know if it was because it had been cut once, but the newly grown hair was much smoother than before, and the shiny hair fluttered gently in the wind. The four of them hurriedly walked towards the floating bus station and just caught the next floating bus to the central area. Wen Jiu didn't want to bring Chu Jian with her at first because she was afraid that Kao Jiwen would see something. But she was worried that something might happen if she left Chu Jian alone in the store. Rather than something happening, it was better to keep her by her side and observe her all the time. So in addition to the 3 people invited by Kao Jiwen, Chu Jian, who was wrapped tightly, also got on the floating bus. It didn't take them long to reach their destination, and as soon as they got off the bus, they saw Kao Jiwen, who came to the bus station to pick them up. Cousin. Kao Shishi ran over excitedly. Seeing this, Zikingai waved his hand very obediently and said, "Hello, beautiful sister." He felt that he did not leave a good impression on the other party last time, so he must perform well this time. However, Kao Jiwen only smiled and nodded at him, and then she greeted Wen Jiu, who was standing behind him, enthusiastically. "Little Wen Jiu, come here quickly." Yes, right away." Wen Jiu was standing next to Chu Jian at this time. She pulled the corner of his clothes and whispered, "Please shut your mouth, and don't talk nonsense, and cause trouble later." After all, Kao Jiwen was an active soldier in the military region, and Chu Jian was a fugitive wanted by the federal government. She didn't want to see her family fighting each other. "I know, little master." Chu Jian knelt down, with a teasing tone in his words. Then they followed Kao Jiwen into a building not far away. After going down the stairs to the second underground floor, they turned left and right for a long time before they came to a huge rock slab door. Kao Jiwen let go of Kao Shishi's hand and walked forward a few steps. She covered the door with both hands. The dark gray slate door had natural bumps and ridges. Within a few seconds of her hand covering it, ripples like flowing water appeared on the area covered by her hand. Verification passed. After a mechanical and cold electronic female voice sounded, Kao Jiwen put down her hands and stepped back. The slate door automatically opened to the left, and a cool white mist drifted out, while a faint yellow light illuminated the passage inside. "Follow me, because this passage is narrow, and you can only walk one by one." After saying that, Kao Jiwen walked towards the dimly lit passage, and Kao Shishi followed closely behind her. Seeing this, Zikingai hurried over and walked in third, muttering that she was afraid of the dark, and asked Kao Shishi to wait for him. "Have you been here?" Wen Jiu let Chu Jian walk in front of him, and then walked slowly at the end of the team. When Kao Jiwen opened the door just now, she noticed that Chu Jian's body tensed for a moment, as if he was making some defensive posture. Hearing this, Chu Jian stopped and turned back, saying, "No, it was just a habitual action." Wen Jiu stared at him for a long time, until Kao Shishi's voice came from afar. She retracted her sight and pushed her forward. This narrow passage was not as long as she imagined, and soon she saw the dazzling light in front of her. "Wait here for a while, I'll go find my friend." Kao Jiwen asked them to sit on the sofa next to the entrance of the passage, and then turned to walk towards the iron door. Wen Jiu took this opportunity to scan the room. The dazzling incandescent light illuminated the entire room, and various weapons were displayed on the dark walls. In addition to the various cold weapons with cold light, there were many weapons she had never seen in reality. For example, those guns with smooth lines and fine workmanship, and weapons with strange appearance that made it difficult to tell how to use them. There was also a dark blue rifle stacked in the corner, shining with a striking light blue light under the light. You just know how to make trouble for me every day. Do you know how long it takes me to make a weapon? This is not a question of money. I'm a very ambitious person. I make weapons to fulfill my dreams. Please don't try to insult my personality with money. TSK, are you serious? Then please insult me as much as you want. A noisy voice came from behind the iron gate. The shrill female voice was something Wen Jiu had never heard before. She couldn't help but turn her head to look at the iron gate. But Kyoshi and Zikingayu seemed to have not heard it. The two of them were close together discussing the weapons on display on the wall. Only Chujian made the same action as her. Wen Jiu had long been aware of her enhanced hearing, but she didn't expect Chujian to do the same. So she moved closer to him and lowered her voice. The initial mutation is to enhance hearing and other perceptions? Yes, little master. Chujian didn't know why he liked to use this word to make fun of him, but it was a pity that Wen Jiu had long been immune to this word and was too lazy to even hit him twice. Seeing that the other party ignored him again, he leaned forward and said, "You are different from them. You are my kind." Chujian curled his lips after saying this. He wanted to see if the little girl would be sad about this. After all, who wants to be a monster that will mutate? However, Wen Jiu only answered calmly, "It's as if you and I are not human. If you don't want to be human, I have no objection, but can you not drag me into it? I still." Before she finished her words, the tightly closed iron door opened. A tall beauty with twin ponytails came out. She had all kinds of fancy hairpins on her head, and with the eye-catching pink hair color, it was hard for people not to notice her. "Come on, my sponsors, tell me what type of weapons you like. There is nothing I can't make, only what you can't think of." Cynthia smiled and opened her arms. Her fingers and wrists were decorated with bright silver ornaments, which made a jingling sound as she moved. Today's third update has also been successfully delivered. Here he give you all a heart 030. Chapter 373 Weapon Transformation 2. Do you want to make the same gun? Cynthia raised her legs and lazily placed them on the wooden table. Her hands holding the lollipop were painted with colorful nail polish and paired with those silver rings inlaid with gems. Just one look was enough to dazzle people. Therefore, Zikingayu lowered his eyes and looked down. He always felt that he would be blinded if he looked at it one more time. Yes, and then changed the color to sky blue. He lowered his voice to the lowest level, fearing that others would hear it. However, Cynthia raised her voice and asked, "Is it the same gun shape as that little girl?" And then changed the color, right? Yes, no. Zikingayu was frightened and hurriedly explained, "I just think that gun looks easy to use, and I also like to use guns." He glanced at Kyoshi, who was testing the gun with his peripheral vision. Fortunately, the other party did not notice his movement here, so he acted fierce. "Don't talk loudly anymore. Okay, you're such a brat." Cynthia stuck out her tongue. "If you want the same model, just say it directly. You're acting like a thief." After that, she pointed to the pistol on the table next to her, and then continued, "Weapons are not something you can just look at. Take this gun to that room to practice, and then bring it back to me if it's suitable." Zikingayu first thanked him politely, and then took the gun to the target next to him. After he left, Cynthia half squinted her scholar eyes, and looked at Wen Jiu. "Do you want to change a new weapon, or do you want to modify that useless whip?" She had heard from Kyoji that the little girl had a queen's golden whip without a handle. She didn't want to take this job at first, because modifying weapons is more tiring than customizing weapons, but Kyoji gave too much, so she reluctantly agreed. Cynthia pointed at the weapons on the wall with half-closed eyes. "I personally suggest you change to a new weapon. This queen's golden whip doesn't work well. This whip looks easy to use, but it's actually very laborious. You can't swing it without some wrist strength. Moreover, the Queen's Golden Whip has long been eliminated from the ranks of 5th level weapons. In addition, there are no accessories for it on the market now, so it will be more troublesome to modify it than other weapons. If I still want to modify it, beautiful sister, can you help me modify it?" Wen Jiu took the golden whip out of the wisdom ring space, and she slowly walked forward and placed it on the table. she still wanted to modify the golden whip. After all, this thing has been with her for a long time, and she used it quite smoothly without feeling that it was laborious. Cynthia looked at her first, and then glanced at the golden whip without a whip handle. To be honest, I really don't want to modify this broken whip for you. It is a 5th level weapon in terms of power, but there are very few people who can use its power. If you just think this whip is beautiful, I can make you a better looking one. The original golden whip was emitting a faint golden light, and it would become radiant when it was illuminated by light, and it would be even more gorgeous and dazzling when it was waved. Therefore, when it was first launched on the market, many people placed orders for its appearance, but it was a pity that few people could bring out its power. Later, it became a 5th level weapon that no one cared about, and was finally kicked out of the ranks of 5th level weapons. The golden whip that lost its title of 5th level weapon is just an ordinary whip for viewing. But its selling price is very high, resulting in few people willing to buy it to watch it. So the golden whip has been off the shelves in the weapon market for a long time, and its only remaining value is to be sent to recycle the material costs. Beautiful sister, try to see if you can modify it first. Wen Jiu blinked his watery eyes. Cynthia was not fooled by children's cute tricks, but Jiu promised to pay her a very high fee, so she had to reluctantly accept the request to modify the golden whip. However, she was still a little reluctant. Although the structure of the golden whip was not complicated, the golden whip in front of her not only had no whip handle, but also the outermost coating had been peeled off. There were also metal particles originally mixed in the whip body, which should have been stripped away by those who resold and recycled it. This golden whip could not even be called a defective product. It was simply a rag that was about to be scrapped. Hey, little sister. I have several new whips hanging on the wall to my left, including 9-section whips, leather whips, and short whips. You can consider changing the whip. The main thing is that your golden whip is almost scrapped. If you want to modify it, you can only modify it drastically. Consider it. Cynthia pursed her lips and blew upwards, blowing the bangs that blocked her sight to the side. She leaned lazily on the leather chair and turned around and saw Jiu, who was eating. Wanmi, what are you eating secretly there? Under the bright light, she could see that the other party was holding a big bowl in her hand, but she didn't know what was in it. Hearing this, Jiu raised her head and replied, "This is a roasted grass jelly that Wen Jiu brought over. Do you want to try it?" As she said that, she walked towards Cynthia with the bowl. She was reluctant to share this roasted grass jelly, but considering that she had to ask the other party to make weapons for the children, she made up her mind to put the bowl on the table. Cynthia first came over with a curious look on her face, and then pinched her nose and sat back on the leather chair with a look of disgust. What is this black lump? It looks like a mud monster that can't move. She thought Jiu must be crazy, otherwise how could she eat such things so deliciously? But the other party swore, "You will know after you try it. It is very delicious." Cynthia took out a purple mask from the drawer and put it on, saying that she would never eat grass jelly. She also complained with disgust, "It is obviously black mud, and it is called grass jelly. Can you live forever after eating it? I must have read too many children's stories." After complaining, she glanced at the unknown object in the bowl, which almost made her feel nauseous. The black mud was matched with milky white liquid, and there were some colorful particles of unknown things on it. I don't know how Jiu could say it was delicious against her conscience. "Take this grass jelly away quickly. I feel sick just looking at it." Cynthia felt that her eyes were dirty. She found a red eyeliner and drew a line at the end of her eye for a moment, forgetting the grass jelly in her mind before she spoke. "Call them out. After staying in the practice room for so long, they should have an idea of the weapons they want." Today's first update has been delivered. Thank you to every little angel for your support. Thank you everyone. 030. Chapter 374 Weapon Transformation 3. Kyoshi and Zikingayu chose the same pistol, but the former wanted to paint it pink with a bow logo, while the latter wanted to paint it sky blue, and had no idea about the logo. "Why did you choose the same one as me?" When Kyoshi heard Zikingayu say that he also wanted to choose that pistol, she immediately looked at him with her arms folded and puffed up her face. "If you can choose, then why can't I?" and there are many guns on the market, so do you want to stop other people from buying them? Zikingayu stuck out her tongue and made a face. Kyoshi couldn't find any words to refute this for a while, so she could only turn her head away and sulk in her heart. Seeing this, Chujian approached Wen Jiu with a gloating look and said, "Your friends are quarreling, aren't you going to mediate?" He hadn't let Kyoshi and Zikingayu know that he had returned to normal, so he had to pretend to be an amnesiac fool when he was outside. Every time he wanted to talk to Wen Jiu about something, he had to do it when others weren't paying attention. If you want to persuade her, go ahead. I'm busy practicing with weapons. Wen Jiu just glared at him and continued to swing the golden whip in his hand. Cynthia happened to have a golden whip for her to try out, and the real golden whip was much more difficult to use than the virtual practice in the weapons practice room of the academy. In addition to the consumption of mental energy, it also tested her physical strength and wrist strength. Every time she swung the whip, she could feel her mental energy weakening, and it also affected her physical endurance. No wonder Cynthia kept urging her to change the whip. This real golden whip was really difficult to use. "Little master, you are not good enough. You are so tired after just a few swings." Chujian came over and joked. He didn't expect Wen Jiu's physical fitness to be so poor. The other party was so tired that he was panting and paired after practicing for less than a while. "You are the best, then I want to see how capable you are," Wen Jiu said and hit the whip at the side. Fortunately, Chujian reacted quickly, otherwise, the whip would have made his already unrecovered body even weaker, and he would most likely be beaten back to a cat with blurred consciousness. He knew that Wen Jiu was not as good-tempered as he looked, but he did not expect that he would really hit him without any hesitation. The movement on their side attracted the attention of Kyoshi and Zikingayu, who were bickering, which made Chujian, who was thinking of fighting back, immediately stop thinking about it. He still pretended that nothing happened and tilted his head and said, "Zio Jiu was showing me her whip skills just now. By the way, have you chosen your pistols?" "I have chosen, but I have a question." Zikingayu scratched his head and continued, "I remember that you need to register to buy this kind of weapon, but I see this store." He wanted to say that this store didn't seem to have a business license, and he didn't know if the weapons bought here could be used legally, but before he finished speaking, he saw Cynthia stepping in wearing purple and pink boots. "Don't worry, Kit, I still have the business license." Cynthia shrugged nonchalantly, and the large baseball jacket slid down with her movements, revealing the colorful tattoos from her shoulders to her arms. Perhaps considering that there were children here, she pulled up the jacket that had slipped down, and then slowly said, "This is a legitimate weapons store. Just pay the money, and don't worry about other problems." This made Zikingayu a little embarrassed, and he felt that his thoughts were seen through. Fortunately, Cynthia didn't dwell on this issue for too long. "It seems that you have chosen it. Shoot 2 shots at the target for me to see." She stretched out her finger lazily and pointed at Zikingayu, indicating that the other party should pick up the selected pistol and go for target shooting. Bang bang, 2 gunshots fell, but Cynthia leaned against the door with half-squinted eyes, looking like she was about to fall asleep. Beautiful sister Zikingayu was about to ask if she needed to shoot 2 more shots, but she saw the other party side. "This gun is not suitable for you. Your hands are too small, which makes it difficult for you to hold the gun and pull the trigger. Also, the recoil of this gun is not easy for you to control. You have to move your position after firing a shot. I can help you replace a few parts to reduce the recoil's firing, but it is difficult for me to solve this problem of holding the gun." Cynthia just stood by and watched for a moment, and she could directly point out the problem when Zikingayu used the gun, which made Kyoshi standing next to her stunned. However, before she could ask anything, she was pointed out by the other party and continued to shoot at the target. "Your problem is similar to his. The grip of this gun is not good enough for you. If you are willing, try the 5th pistol in the 3rd row over there. I think it will be more suitable for you than this one." Cynthia took out a lollipop from her pocket while speaking. After peeling off the outer wrapping paper in a few seconds, she pulled down the mask and put it in her mouth. Then she looked at Wen Jiu and continued vaguely, "What do you think?" Do you still want to modify the golden whip? She thought that, after letting this little girl use a real golden whip a few times, she would know the pain. After all, anyone could pick up the nearly scrapped golden whip and use it. Unexpectedly, the other party nodded with a firm look. Well, I still want to modify the golden whip, Wen Jiu said and swung the whip in the direction of Chu Jian. The sudden attack scared the other party so much that he almost showed his cat ears. I think the golden whip is still quite useful for me, don't you think so, brother? She smiled and blinked at the somewhat angry Chu Jian. In order to prevent Cao Jiwen from getting suspicious, she specifically said before coming that she would bring her brother with her. As for this brother, it was naturally Chu Jian. Hearing this, Chu Jian replied with gritted teeth, haha, I'm just an ordinary person who doesn't understand these things. Since you insist on modifying the golden whip, I have nothing much to say. But I have to remind you first, yours may be very different from my finished golden whip after the modification. And in terms of power, it can only be considered a third level weapon after the modification. In short, I still suggest that you get a new whip, Cynthia said as she bit the lollipop in her mouth. Although the crackling sound was very faint, it still reached Wen Jiu's ears. Let's try the transformation first. Wen Jiu said that he was ready. I just have a request. I don't know if the beautiful sister can satisfy me. After she finished speaking, Cynthia raised her eyebrows with interest. Tell me, do you want to change the color or add a logo? However, Wen Jiu didn't want to change the color or add a logo. She replied with a smile. Can I watch you help them modify their weapons? Today's second update has also been successfully delivered. Thanks again to the little angels for their support. W equals. Chapter 375 Weapon Transformation 4. Wen Jiu was very curious about the process of making and modifying weapons. When she was looking up information, she learned that people who can make and modify weapons are generally called weapon refiners. Unfortunately, there is no course for refining weapons in the 3047 Academy. When she was practicing in the sect, her master had taught them to refine weapons, but her ability to blow up the furnace was so well known that everyone refused to let her enter the refining room to refine weapons. Therefore, the furnace and weapons she used were all sent to her by her senior brothers and sisters after they were refined. But as a person with both wood and fire element and the natal fire, she felt very wronged that she could not refine weapons. Although she had a high chance of exploding the furnace when refining pills, it did not mean that her refining weapons would also explode. However, this was just her inner thoughts. She really didn't know whether it would explode or not. Little girl, do you want to learn from me? Cynthia half closed her eyes and looked cold. Before I get angry, I hope you can apologize to me. Every weapon refiner has his own unique skills. Unless he is a disciple of the master or a systematic course taught in the academy, the general weapon refiner will not disclose the process of his weapon refinement. Sorry beautiful sister, I offended you. Wen Jiu bowed respectfully. If it is inconvenient, just pretend I didn't say it. I'm just curious. She said it just to try if it would work, and she didn't mean to offend Cynthia. Seeing this, Cao Jiwen quickly came out to make peace. Sister Yap, don't think too much. You know the situation of 3047 Academy. It's normal for little Wen Jiu to be curious about weapon refinement. Hearing this, Cynthia raised her eyebrows slightly. She walked slowly in front of Wen Jiu and lifted his chin with her hand to take a look. She is Wen Jiu. You should have said it earlier. If you want to see me transform them, it's not impossible. After all, I'm your senior. As she spoke, she shook Wen Jiu's head with her fingers until she saw the silver earrings hidden in his hair. Wow, it seems that the new baby is you. She clicked her tongue twice and pinched Wen Jiu's face, then stood up and walked towards the door. This sudden change of attitude confused the four people except Wen Jiu. They thought Cynthia would really be angry about this, but they didn't expect that she would be fine after a few words of laughter. Only Wen Jiu knew the reason for Cynthia's sudden change. She guessed that this person had some friendship with Yu Ruman, and her silver earrings were probably made by her. Why are you still staying in there? Come out and start choosing colors. Cynthia took the electronic panel from the table. After her fingertips slid on it a few times, a light and shadow were projected on the smooth wall without any hanging objects. "That little girl wants pink, right?" she said as she slid the electronic panel, and the light and shadow on the wall also turned into countless pink squares. She pointed at the pink squares on the wall and motioned Kyoshi to come forward and choose the color. After Kyoshi chose the bright pink, she changed the color of the color block again. This time, it was changed to various blue blocks. After looking at them one by one and carefully comparing them, Zikingayu chose the bright sky blue to paint the pistol. We'll talk about Zhao Wen Jiu's whip later. It's not easy to change the color of the whip. After letting Kyoshi and Zikingayu choose the color, Cynthia found an electronic pen and drew 4 or 5 bow patterns on the panel in a few strokes. There are realistic styles and cute styles, waiting for Kyoshi to choose. After choosing the appearance of their pistols, Cynthia picked up the practice pistol. After groping for a while, she opened the secret door behind the wall and took Wen Jiu and others into her workshop. The huge workshop was filled with various instruments and tools. She casually threw the pistol on the operating table and then rummaged through the cabinet against the wall to find 4 pairs of goggles and masks. "I'll show you briefly. If you want to see, put them on and stand over here." Cynthia pointed them to a location, then took out her goggles and mask and put them on. Compared to the ordinary goggles she gave to Wen Jiu and the others, her own goggles were covered with a circle of colorful small decorations, and there was a round word Zixi in pink font on the upper left corner. She swept away her previous lazy attitude, and after Wen Jiu and the others put on their equipment, she sat on the chair and started to operate. Cynthia first put on gloves and quickly disassembled the pistol, and then pulled over an instrument next to the table. Her fingers flew across the electronic panel on the instrument, and in a few seconds she pulled out something like a spray gun on the side of the instrument. "Put on your goggles." As soon as she finished speaking, she placed the disassembled shell on the center of the raised table, then picked up the spray gun and began to paint the gun shell. The bright pink color that had just been sprayed on was not very conspicuous, so a flame ignited at her fingertips. The jumping orange-red flame slowly baked the gun shell, and then she picked up the spray gun and began to paint it for the second time. After repeating it several times, the bright pink gun shell was brand new and translucent, and it was also printed with the lace bow pattern chosen by Kyoshi. This was just the most basic weapon painting. Then she found a lot of parts and laid them out, and then modified and assembled them at a rapid speed. Wen Jiu and others could only see her hands constantly picking up and putting things down, and from time to time there was a sizzling sound of tools and parts colliding. After the orange-red flame appeared, Chu Jian came to Wen Jiu and began to mutter in a low voice. She should be just a weapon refiner, not a mecha master. Only gold-type psychics can be mecha masters. Although the Federation has not published a ranking of the strengths of psychics, there are indeed differences and gaps between psychics. For example, wood-type psychics are indeed better than other psychics in medical research because they have a natural affinity with plants. Gold-type psychics are stronger in mechas and weapons. It can be said that all the existing mecha masters in the Federation are gold-type psychics without exception. Every mecha master can refine weapons, but this does not mean that every weapon refiner can make mechas. Therefore, when Cynthia used the fire-type psychic, Chu Jian realized that she was just an ordinary weapon refiner. "Oh, you know a lot." When Jiu stared at Cynthia's operation, she felt that she could do this kind of polishing parts and coloring. Chu Jian realized that he seemed to have said a little too much, so he lowered his voice and cleared his throat twice, pretending that he knew nothing and said nothing. They only stood there for about half an hour, and Cynthia finished painting the pistol. Today's 4th update has also been delivered. Thank you to the little angels who followed, voted, and rewarded. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.